Chapter 381. The battle between Emperor Azure and the black-robed figure was witnessed by the spectators. Emperor Azure's strength was deeply engraved in their hearts. He had cultivated many techniques, and every single one of them was extremely terrifying. Not only that, he was somewhat similar to Qin Wentian, possessing the ability to transform into a demon, allowing him to become incomparably terrifying. If it wasn't for the fact that the black-robed figure had executed one of the most tyrannical arts of the chaotic art of the heavenly devil, the 9 slashes of purgatory, he might not have been able to defeat Emperor Azure. And yet, at this moment, Qin Wentian stood on the arena platform, declaring that he would defeat Emperor Azure within 10 breaths of time. How arrogant was this? Emperor Azure couldn't believe his own eyes when he heard Qin Wentian's words. Defeat him within 10 breaths of time. Because of Mo Qingqing's admission of defeat, Qin Wentian was able to temporarily enter the top 6. The others were all frantically fighting for the top 6 spots, while he effortlessly entered the top 6. And now he even dared to say such words to him? If he hadn't heard it with his own ears, he wouldn't have dared to believe it. A demonic light flashed in Emperor Azure's eyes, only to see a pair of tyrannical wings appearing on Qin Wentian's back. 1 breath of time. As the sound of his voice faded, Qin Wentian's silhouette vanished from sight. His silhouette was akin to a true great rock, and with a flash, he appeared before Emperor Azure as he blasted out a palm strike. As this palm descended, the sound of bells rang out. Numerous ancient golden bells appeared out of nowhere, giving off a dong-dong sound that contained a mysterious power. These bell chimes directly rang out in the depths of Emperor Azure's heart, ignoring everything else. Not only that, the bell chimes rang out unceasingly. At this moment, Emperor Azure felt as though numerous gigantic ancient bells were slamming into his heart. Such a feeling wasn't something an outsider could understand. In just an instant, Emperor Azure's back was drenched in sweat. With a howl of rage, his astral souls erupted forth as his entire person transformed into a phantom, transforming into a blood-colored demonic ape as he blasted out with a palm strike. Boom! The bell chimes rang out unceasingly, causing Emperor Azure's heart to palpitate madly, as though it would explode at any moment. With a howl of madness, Qin Wentian's palm imprint blasted out. It was similarly the ape-strike palm imprint, and as it collided with Emperor Azure's palm imprint, a terrifying might erupted forth. Emperor Azure felt the energy transmitted from Qin Wentian's palm imprint seeping into his body, gushing towards his heart. Lifting his left hand, a devil imprint erupted forth from his palm, slamming towards Qin Wentian's face. A battle of strength. Qin Wentian's mandate of force and mandate of demonic beasts simultaneously erupted forth from his palms. Both palms collided with each other, causing the entire arena platform to tremble as a terrifying shockwave swept through the air. Boom! A powerful surge of astral energy erupted forth as Emperor Azure's silhouette vanished. The spectators only saw his silhouette reappearing behind Qin Wentian's back. Qin Wentian didn't even glance at him as he stabbed out with a single finger. The heaven-breaking finger, a single finger capable of severing the heavens. As the finger pierced out, a terrifying black hole of demonic chi appeared in the air, shooting towards Emperor Azure's heart. At the same time, a third eye appeared in the center of Qin Wentian's brows, directly scanning through the air. In that instant, Emperor Azure felt his mind going blank, as though he was in a daze. Die! With a roar, Emperor Azure slashed out with a resplendent sword strike, imbued with the might of the heavenly swordplay. Astonishment and bewilderment could be seen on the faces of the spectators. Why did Emperor Azure's sword strike miss Qin Wentian's body? That sword was so beautiful, so resplendent, but it actually slashed the wrong way? As the heaven-breaking finger descended, the purgatory vermilion bird behind Qin Wentian let out a shrill cry as it dashed towards Emperor Azure's vermilion bird. Although its ancient luck was useless now, the purgatory vermilion bird still didn't want to spare Emperor Azure's condensed vermilion bird. The immense power contained within was so great that it felt as though it wanted to shatter Emperor Azure's heart. Qin Wentian turned his gaze onto the vermilion bird. His silhouette flickered as he appeared in front of Emperor Azure, directly grabbing onto his throat. 10 breaths of time shouldn't be up yet. Qin Wentian calmly spoke as he lifted Emperor Azure's body. walking towards the edge of the arena platform. Countless people inclined their heads, staring at the shocking scene unfolding before them. No one knew what they were thinking in their hearts. The shock these people brought to them today was simply too much. Qin Wentian had heavily injured Emperor Azure within 10 breaths of time. Not only that, he had even used his most tyrannical strength to suppress Emperor Azure, not allowing Emperor Azure to unleash his full strength. In terms of pure strength, Qin Wentian was even more terrifying compared to Emperor Azure. However, Emperor Azure had many techniques up his sleeves, and was proficient in many ultimate arts. Although he wasn't able to unleash much of the power of his ultimate arts, it was still sufficient to shock the world. But sadly, no matter how many techniques he had up his sleeves, all of them were destroyed by that single strike. That terrifying sword strike actually missed? Even at this moment, the spectators still couldn't understand. Given Emperor Azure's strength, how could his attack miss, allowing Qin Wentian's finger strike to strike him? Qin Wentian carried Emperor Azure's body as he walked to the edge of the arena platform. He stood there, staring at the countless silhouettes, as well as those from the transcendent powers. He told the D-Clan and the White Deer Institute that his name was Qin Wentian. He wasn't worthy of Mo Qingqing. Since he had held her hand on the arena platform, he had already made all the preparations he needed today. You are not worthy. Qin Wentian flung Emperor Azure off the platform. Emperor Azure's countenance paled. He knew what Qin Wentian meant when he said he wasn't worthy. He wasn't worthy of the Azure Emperor's inheritance. The battle between the two of them was a battle for the successor. Emperor Azure, or more accurately Defeng, had suffered a crushing defeat. Those from the D-Clan were naturally mixed in with the crowd. They had clearly seen that Qin Wentian had taken out the Azure Emperor token in the White Deer Institute, and those from the Celestial Lake Palace had also appeared there. How could they not know of Qin Wentian's existence? Those from the White Deer Institute were all filled with emotions when they saw the ending of the battle. There would always be a Heaven's Chosen in every generation. In a short span of a few years, Qin Wentian was able to reverse the situation. Countless people stared at Qin Wentian, who was standing on the arena platform. His Purgatory Vermilion Bird had devoured Emperor Azure's Vermilion Bird, and was now floating behind him. One man, one demon, they stood on the arena platform. Yesterday he held Mo Qingqing's hand, announcing to the world their relationship. Was he, Qin Wentian, not worthy? Stepping out, Qin Wentian walked down the platform. At this moment, the top 6 rankings had already been decided. The top 6 rankers were Chen Wang Sherpatian, Si Qiong Zhanchen, the black-robed figure, and Qin Wentian. Old Man Tianji allowed the spectators to rest for a period of time before he announced, Qin Zheng, battle against Emperor Azure. This battle would determine the 7th and 8th rankers of the Heavenly Fate rankings. Emperor Azure wouldn't allow himself to be defeated. On the arena platform, he frenziedly fought against Qin Zheng, causing the spectators to involuntarily sigh in admiration. Both of them were extremely powerful, and were proficient in many different methods. In the end, Emperor Azure was defeated once again. Ever since the top 11 rankers were decided, Emperor Azure had lost 3 times in a row. The first was to the black-robed figure, the second was to Qin Wentian, and the third was to Qin Zheng. He, Emperor Azure, hadn't even won a single battle. Even someone as powerful as Emperor Azure was defeated in 3 consecutive battles. Such an ending caused the spectators to sigh in their hearts. This was the Heavenly Fate rankings this time around. The previous ranker, Emperor Azure, ranked number 5, had lost all 3 battles. At this moment, Emperor Azure was extremely dispirited. He had no way to accept such a tragic ending. However, reality was cruel. The Heavenly Fate rankings floated in front of Old Man Tianji. Qin Zheng's name was engraved on the 7th position, while Emperor Azure's name was engraved on the 8th position. Only the top 6 rankers had yet to be determined. The remaining 6 were also the strongest among them. Great waves of shock rocked the hearts of the spectators. They didn't dare to believe how terrifying the upcoming battles would be. Chen Wang, who would he face in the first battle? Si Qiong, how strong would his soul assimilation art be? Other than Mu Feng, was there anyone else who could injure him? Chen Wang Sherpatian Si Qiong Zhanchen. Who was stronger? Had the black-robed figure reached his limit? Would he be able to advance any further? Qin Wentian was a dark horse. Would he be the weakest among the remaining 6? Or could he continue to create miracles and step into the top 5? Or even the top 3? Questions and questions filled the hearts of the spectators. They couldn't wait to see the final battles of the Heavenly Fate rankings. Next, each and every one of you will have to fight multiple rounds of battles. The order of the battles will be determined by me. As long as your strength is sufficient, you will all have multiple chances to fight. You won't be eliminated after a single round. Old Man Tianji stared at the crowd as he slowly explained. Many of the spectators knew of the rules of the Heavenly Fate rankings. When it came to the last 6 people, they knew that the following battles would be very serious. They would carry out many battles to determine the final rankings. For the first round, Chen Wang against Zhang Qin, Si Qiong against the black-robed figure, Sherpatian against Qin Wentian. As the sound of Old Man Tianji's voice faded, the spectators all nodded their heads in agreement. From their perspective, Chen Wang, Si Qiong and Sherpatian might be stronger than Zhang Qin, Qin Wentian and the black-robed figure. Hence, there was no need for the two of them to clash earlier than expected. However, it was unavoidable for the remaining 6 rankers to clash against each other. Regardless of which two of them clashed against each other, it would still be considered a battle between the strong. Chen Wang against Zhang Qin. For this battle, Chen Wang had a higher chance of winning. Although Zhang Qin was also very powerful, Chen Wang had the highest chance of obtaining the first rank. Si Qiong against the black-robed man. Si Qiong should be the victor. Si Qiong's combat prowess was strange and powerful, and he even had a soul-devouring art. It was simply too terrifying. Although the black-robed man's devil arts were tyrannical, he was still lacking in maturity. In terms of mastery over the ultimate arts of Grand Xia, the black-robed figure's mastery over the chaotic art of the art of the art of the art of the chaotic art of the art of the art of the art of the Heavenly Fate rankings could be said to be one of the stronger contenders. His mastery of the Great Solar Universe art was comparable to Chen Wang's mastery of the Great Solar Universe art. Yet it was still far from enough. Si Qiong seemed to be proficient in many of the ultimate arts of Grand Xia. As for the battle between Sherpatian and Qin Wentian, the majority of the spectators still felt that Sherpatian's chances of victory were higher. After all, Sherpatian was still the #1 contender. Before this, the spectators had always thought that he would fight against Chen Wang. But with the appearance of Si Qiong and Zhang Qin, the situation had changed. However, with Sherpatian's strength, he should be able to defeat Qin Wentian, although it would not be easy. Chapter 382. Chen Wang against Zhang Qin. Si Qiong against the black-robed figure. Sherpatian against Qin Wentian. 3 battles, each one filled the hearts of the spectators with boundless anticipation. When Chen Wang and Zhang Qin stood on the arena platform, countless gazes landed on them. Chen Wang had transformed into the mysterious and terrifying Zhang Qin. How terrifying would the two of them be when they clashed? Chen Wang and Zhang Qin stared at each other. The vermilion bird let out a long cry as its aura erupted forth. A terrifying battle intent surged forth from both of them, as though it was about to roar. Chen Wang's entire body was bathed in flames. His bones and blood seemed to have transformed into lava. He resembled a flaming giant, his eyes gleaming with the light of the great sun. Behind him, a great sun dharma body could be seen. Just a single glance at him was enough to strike fear into the hearts of the spectators. The temperature around him was so terrifying that no one dared to approach him. Zhang Qin's body was enveloped in a layer of golden light. The golden light shone resplendently under the rays of the sun, as though he possessed an indestructible golden body, clashing head-on with Chen Wang's flaming body. No matter how strong you are now, you will lose for sure. Chen Wang stared at Zhang Qin as he calmly stated, "No one can obstruct my path." Zhang Qin's eyes flickered with a terrifying golden light, as though his gaze could kill. In his hands, a golden sword appeared, the sword of punishment. The two of them stepped out, walking towards each other as a towering might gushed forth from Chen Wang's body. On the Vermilion Bird Arena platform, the 2 vermilion bird silhouettes in the air were also engaged in a fierce battle, screeching madly as they clashed against each other. Chi. A beam of sword light slashed through the air. Zhang Chen was the first to make his move. The sword of punishment contained the might of heavenly punishment, capable of cleaving apart everything. His mandate of swords erupted forth. His sword contained the might of punishment, able to end the life and death of his opponent with a single strike. Bang! Chen Wang stepped out. His silhouette directly vanished as astral light erupted forth. This was the ultimate art of Grand Xia, stellar transposition. Stellar transposition was the easiest absolute art to master. It could be mastered in a short period of time, but the more proficient one was in practicing it, the more powerful it would be. All 9 ultimate arts were like this. For example, Chen Wang's Great Solar Universe art, as well as the black-robed figure's chaotic art of the Heavenly Devil. The longer they cultivated it, the more proficient they would be. As for others who had only cultivated it for a short period of time, although they also possessed powerful techniques, the power they could unleash was limited. This was also the reason why Emperor Azure was defeated by the black-robed figure. Emperor Azure seemed to be proficient in all kinds of secret arts, yet he was still defeated by the black-robed figure, who only used a single secret art. How could this be? That was because the black-robed man only cultivated the chaotic heavenly devil art. He infused all of his energy into the chaotic heavenly devil art. His chaotic heavenly devil art was tyrannical to the extreme. When the 5th saber of the 9 slaughters of purgatory slashed out, even the heavens and earth turned dark. Naturally, Emperor Azure didn't cultivate many ultimate arts of Grand Xia. He only cultivated a single one, the Formless Heart Sutra. The Formless Heart Sutra was obtained by one of the 7 great lineages of Grand Xia, the Hua clan. A few years ago, Hua Taishi relied on the Formless Heart Sutra to dominate the heavenly fate rankings. The Formless Heart Sutra was invisible and formless, yet it was capable of simulating innate techniques. Emperor Azure's Formless Heart Sutra couldn't even be compared to Hua Taishi's. After all, he had only cultivated it for a few days. The 9 ultimate arts of Grand Xia were Great Solar Universe art, Chaotic Heavenly Devil art, Heavenly Swordplay, Golden Dragon Battle art, Stellar Transposition, Formless Heart Sutra, Seal of Life and Death, Blood Curse Imprint and Thunder God Slash. Not everyone could cultivate the 9 ultimate arts. For example, the Great Solar Universe art was best suited for fire-type cultivators. As for the Chaotic Heavenly Devil art, it was exceedingly difficult to cultivate, and was also exceedingly dangerous. Hence, there were only a few people who could cultivate it. Although it was the most tyrannical and all-round cultivation art, its single-target attacks weren't as tyrannical as the Thunder God Slash. The Stellar Transposition was the easiest to cultivate. As for the Seal of Life and Death and Blood Curse Imprint, only those with unique talent would be able to successfully cultivate them. The more difficult an ultimate art was, the more effort and price one had to pay, and the more talent one had to pay. But if one could successfully cultivate it, the benefits one could obtain would also be the greatest. Chen Wang chose the Stellar Transposition because he felt that his attacks were already sufficiently powerful. The other ultimate arts might not be suitable for him. The Stellar Transposition allowed him to unleash instantaneous attacks, as well as the ability to evade. In the blink of an eye, Chen Wang appeared before Zhang Chen as a terrifying Great Solar Palm imprint blasted onto Zhang Chen's golden body. The flames of the Great Solar Flame instantly melted Zhang Chen's golden body into a liquid state. The golden liquid started to flow, yet Zhang Chen didn't seem to notice it at all. His eyes were fixated on Chen Wang, wanting to decide the victor of this battle in an instant. Chen Wang was underestimating him, Zhang Chen. A malevolent smile flickered in Chen Wang's eyes as the sound of splashing rang out. That golden body of Zhang Chen had actually been completely melted into a liquid state. At this moment, a silhouette directly flew out, slashing out with a sword as fast as lightning. Chen Wang lifted his arm and made a grabbing motion in the air. The sound of collision rang out. It felt as though his arm was about to be severed. However, his arm had already turned into lava, and he didn't fear pain at all. Chen Wang stared at the sky as a gigantic palm imprint manifested, directly grabbing onto Zhang Chen's body. Bzz. Another silhouette flew out. Zhang Chen once again transformed into his original form. instantly appearing behind Chen Wang as he slashed out with his sword. As this sword descended, it borrowed the radiance of the heavens and earth, as well as the radiance of the sun and moon. The heavenly sword, heavenly sword, heavenly sword, heavenly sword, heavenly sword, heavenly sword. Pung. A powerful astral light erupted forth. Chen Wang also sensed the danger of this attack. His silhouette vanished from sight, appearing on the other side of the arena platform. Turning his head, Chen Wang stared at Zhang Chen with a puzzled expression. Zhang Chen had an indestructible golden body? Why was it that every time Zhang Chen struck him, he would be able to escape like a cicada shedding its carapace? I really want to see how long you can endure. Chen Wang soared in the air as he released his astral souls. A great solar astral body appeared behind him, exuding an incomparable majesty. His silhouette instantly appeared in front of Zhang Chen as he frenziedly punched out with his great solar fist. The terrifying might of the great solar universe art engulfed everything in its path, while Zhang Chen's sword danced in the air. The two of them clashed violently in the air, causing explosive sounds to echo out unceasingly. The two of them seemed to be indestructible. Zhang Chen was struck at least 10 times, while Chen Wang was slashed 5 times, yet he didn't even frown in the slightest. Too violent. Such a battle caused the hearts of the spectators to tighten. Who would have thought that Zhang Chen would be able to fight against Chen Wang to such an extent? Even if he was defeated, he would still be one of the top 3 contenders. Let's see how long you can last. A voice filled with arrogance rang out as Zhang Chen's golden body shattered once again. The spectators stared at the silhouette of Chen Wang as they sighed. Chen Wang's foundation was indeed deeper than Zhang Chen's. Although Zhang Chen was also very strong, he was still somewhat inferior. Finally, Zhang Chen was suppressed by Chen Wang and was blasted off the arena platform. Drawing in a deep breath, he landed on the ground as his countenance paled. In the end, Chen Wang was still the victor. Chen Wang's strength was evidently higher than Zhang Chen's, but Zhang Chen's abilities were too monstrous. It was as though he was invincible, which was why the battle lasted for so long. If it wasn't Chen Wang, who else would be able to defeat Zhang Chen? The second battle, Si Qiong against the black-robed figure. This was also a battle that caused the spectators to be filled with anticipation. Si Qiong was actually proficient in soul attacks. Other than Mu Feng, who else would be able to injure Si Qiong so severely? Most probably, only Mu Feng's poison would be able to do so. Rumble. The moment the black-robed figure stepped onto the arena platform, he had already unleashed his devil might. He knew how tyrannical Si Qiong's strength was, and how terrifying his soul attacks were. Si Qiong's figure was slender as he stood there, exuding an aura of sharpness. Just by standing there, he gave off a sense of immense self-confidence. The chaotic art of the heavenly devil, the 5th saber of the 9 slashes purgatory isn't enough. Si Qiong calmly stated. He had studied the 9 ultimate arts of Grand Xia. And if one could cultivate the chaotic art of the heavenly devil to its peak, it would definitely be extremely terrifying. However, the cultivation base of the black-robed figure was only at the Yuanfu realm, and was far from being able to unleash the full might of the chaotic art of the heavenly devil. The 9th saber of the 9 slashes purgatory gathered the might of the previous 8 saber strikes, causing a demonic dragon to descend from the heavens, capable of shattering the heavens and rending the earth. Rumble. The devil might was still as strong as ever. Up in the air, the skies darkened as demonic clouds howled, as though a terrifying demonic dragon was roaring in the skies. A devil saber appeared in the hands of the black-robed figure, as the demonic dragon fused into the saber light. The black-robed figure advanced forward. For experts who were proficient in soul attacks, they naturally couldn't afford to drag the battle out. If not, their souls would be severely injured, and the consequences would be dire. Si Qiong's lips moved as sound waves gushed forth from his mouth. This was none other than the soul-suppressing melody. The silhouette of the black-robed figure flickered as he slashed out with his first saber strike. The terrifying saber light caused the sound waves to dissipate. His movements didn't pause as he slashed out with his second saber strike. This saber strike was already aimed at Si Qiong's face. Bang! Astral light exploded forth as Si Qiong's silhouette vanished from sight, reappearing directly above the head of the black-robed figure. His stellar transposition seemed to be even faster and more proficient than before. Qi. Si Qiong pointed out with his finger as a terrifying black-colored qi current pierced through the air, landing on the body of the black-robed figure. However, at the same time, the black-robed figure slashed out with his third saber strike. Bang! Astral light exploded forth once more as Si Qiong vanished once again. This time around, he appeared behind the black-robed figure, his lips still moving as he slashed out with his finger once more. The black-robed figure let out a howl of agony, as though he was in extreme agony. His devilish saber spun in reverse as it slashed out horizontally. However, Si Qiong vanished once again. This was the third time he executed stellar transposition, and he executed it consecutively. This caused the spectators to involuntarily sigh in admiration. Si Qiong's stellar transposition was simply too terrifying, and the consumption of astral energy in his body was extremely high. It was just that the speed at which he executed stellar transposition was extremely fast, allowing him to reduce the consumption of astral energy. Hence, for this strike, Si Qiong's 5 fingers struck out, pointing straight at the head of the black-robed figure. Abruptly, the silhouette of the black-robed figure vanished. The black-robed figure vanished without a trace, as though he had never appeared before. At the place where he stood, only a long black robe was left behind. Si Qiong furrowed his brows, after which a hand abruptly stretched out, grabbing hold of his hand. A terrifying wave of underworld energy caused his entire body to feel a bone-piercing chill. Busy. A saber slashed out, as Si Qiong's other hand abruptly slashed out. Fresh blood splattered in the air, but the finger that was grabbed by the black-robed figure was still pointing downwards. Finally, the black-robed figure released his grip. Si Qiong explosively retreated, only to see the silhouette of the black-robed figure vanishing from the arena platform as he sat cross-legged on the ground. His soul was injured. The hearts of the spectators involuntarily trembled. The damage to one's soul was extremely terrifying, and the black-robed figure was clearly injured. He had lost to Si Qiong. Si Qiong was too terrifying. There was a high possibility that he would be contending against Chen Wang for the top ranker of the Heavenly Fate rankings. Chapter 383. Si Qiong's soul attacks definitely didn't lose out to the 9 ultimate arts of Grand Xia. Yuanfu realm cultivators had no way to sense their own souls, yet Si Qiong was able to do so. However, that earlier strike from the black-robed figure had also left a deep impression on the spectators. It was as though the black-robed figure had vanished into thin air, unleashing a sudden slash that almost caused Si Qiong to die. That earlier strike had also caused Si Qiong to break out in cold sweat. In the battle between Chen Wang and Zhan Chen, as well as the battle between Si Qiong and the black-robed figure, although Chen Wang and Si Qiong had both emerged victorious, they were still able to win by a hair's breadth. From this, one could see the disparity in strength between them. If one dared to underestimate one's opponent, they would definitely die a miserable death. Si Qiong and the black-robed figure both left the platform. The next battle was between Sherpatian and Qin Wentian. In this battle, would the powerful Sherpatian be able to suppress Qin Wentian? Sherpatian from the Sher clan cultivated the Golden Dragon battle art and stellar transposition. It was said that his bloodline contained a unique ability that would be extremely terrifying once used. Sherpatian was ranked number 3 in the previous Heavenly Fate rankings. Now that he was facing a dark horse, how would he fare in defeating him? The dark horse that Sherpatian was facing wasn't an ordinary dark horse. Ever since the first round, he was only at the 7th level of Yuanfu. Back then, he had already obtained first place in the Sounding the Drum Challenge Heavenly Will. At that time he didn't attract too much attention. At the very most, the spectators only knew of him. After which he killed Duan Qingshan. After which, he donned the platinum battle robe, striking the hearts of the spectators again and again. However, what truly caused Qin Wentian to be taken seriously was his performance in the Vermilion Bird formation. When he was being pursued by Chen Wang was the one who suffered a disadvantage, forcing Chen Wang to hide in the cave. And when he came out, he used the most tyrannical method to slaughter Yang Fan, Hua Feng, and the others. Even the powerful Yao Lord was chased away by him with a single sentence. Qin Wentian had a high chance of entering the top 10 of the Heavenly Fate rankings. After that, he held Mo Qingqing's hand on the Heavenly Fate ranking battle platform, telling the world about the relationship between him and Mo Qingqing. And after that, within 10 breaths of time, he defeated Emperor Azure. Time and time again, he had caused the crowd to sigh in admiration. Now he was fighting for the top 3 positions, and his opponent was Sherpatian. Without a doubt, this would be the strongest challenge Qin Wentian had ever faced since he entered the Heavenly Fate rankings. Back then in the Vermilion Bird formation, he could still escape from Chen Wang. But on the arena platform, he could only fight. Sherpatian and Qin Wentian stood on the platform, facing each other. Qin Wentian, this dark horse, had he reached the end of his path? A golden dragon-shaped battle armor covered Sherpatian's body. The ancient demon blood in his body seemed to be boiling. Sherpatian was like a dragon-shaped ancient demon, wielding a golden spear as he stepped forward. One of the 9 great arts of Grand Xia, the Golden Dragon Battle Art. Sherpatian had always been cultivating this art, and his combat strength was incomparably strong. When he walked towards Qin Wentian, the spectators felt as though Qin Wentian was facing a primordial demon. Qin Wentian's body was clad in demonic armor. Demonic qi gushed forth from him as the blood in his body churned wildly. His palms were filled with boundless strength. Behind him, a pair of demonic wings appeared, flapping gently as a demonic wind ravaged the arena platform. Boom! Sherpatian stepped out as his silhouette vanished from sight. Stellar transposition. The instant he reappeared, he appeared right in front of Qin Wentian. The golden dragon spear stabbed out explosively, akin to a golden dragon brandishing its claws, wanting to penetrate Qin Wentian's head. This strike was as fast as lightning. There was no way for Qin Wentian to react. However, a demonic light flickered in the center of Qin Wentian's brows. His third eye shone with a resplendent light, and at the instant the spear pierced out, he had already locked onto Sherpatian's silhouette. It was impossible for Yuanfu cultivators to achieve true teleportation. The stellar transposition had such a powerful effect because it was able to ignite the astral light in an instant, allowing the user to burst forth with terrifying speed, giving off the impression of teleportation. But if a supreme expert were to spectate such a battle, they would be able to clearly see the trajectory of the stellar transposition. Naturally, the stellar transposition would also increase in power according to the user's strength. Qin Wentian was also able to see the trajectory of stellar transposition. The instant his third eye opened, not even the slightest fluctuation in space could hide from him. This was also the reason why when he was fighting against Emperor Azure, he was able to accurately turn his body around and attack Emperor Azure. Bzz. A raging wind gusted as his wings flapped. Qin Wentian's silhouette instantly transformed into a series of afterimages. The golden dragon-shaped spear pierced through the air, yet it only managed to hit the afterimage. Qin Wentian was completely unscathed as he faced Sherpatian. Sherpatian's countenance stiffened as he stared at Qin Wentian's slowly flapping wings. The speed at which Qin Wentian flapped his wings was extremely terrifying, not much slower compared to stellar transposition. Pung! Sherpatian took another step forward as his silhouette vanished once more. This time around, his silhouette directly appeared at the side of Qin Wentian. His golden spear was even faster, even more ferocious. With a single stab, the sound of a sonic boom rang out as the spear pierced into Qin Wentian's silhouette, causing it to explode. However, there was no blood. How is this possible? The spectators only saw the afterimages of Qin Wentian appearing on the arena platform. Qin Wentian was still floating there, unscathed. The wings on his back were still flapping as he stared at Sherpatian. He's able to sense stellar transposition, just like when he fought against Emperor Azure. How powerful! The spectators could finally confirm that Qin Wentian's perception was extremely terrifying. He was able to sense the trajectory of stellar transposition, allowing him to evade in advance. Sherpatian naturally understood this as well. He didn't continue using stellar transposition, stepping out step by step as a terrifying aura gushed forth from him. The demonic qi from Qin Wentian towered up into the skies. His arms transformed into the arms of a qilin, thick and powerful. His sharp claws shone with a terrifying light. Pung! Sir Potion's golden spear struck out once more. This time around he directly attacked Qin Wentian. The golden light from the spear penetrated through everything. It only needed an instant to pierce through Qin Wentian's head. On the tip of the spear, a demonic dragon could be seen baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Strength. I wonder how strong Sir Potion's strength is. Sir Potion was proficient in strength attacks, and was incomparably tyrannical. However, Qin Wentian directly blasted out with his arms. The incomparably ferocious Qilin claws collided with the demonic dragon shadow, causing terrifying sounds of collision to echo out. Sizzling sounds rang out as Qin Wentian was forced backwards. His mandate of force was already at the second level, and so was his mandate of demon. But in terms of strength he still couldn't compare to Sir Potion. The mandates Qin Wentian had comprehended were the mandate of demons, the mandate of metal, and the mandate of great earth. All of them contained a terrifying amplification effect, and all of them were at the second level. In fact, some of them had even reached the advanced boundary, while Qin Wentian was still stuck at the initial boundary. Just based on pure strength alone, Sir Potion was even stronger than Chen Wang. And it was precisely because of his strength that Sir Potion was considered the strongest contender for the Heavenly Fate rankings. Qin Wentian's arms trembled slightly. This time around he could sense many different types of mandates colliding against him. His arms were pierced through by the fiend transformation art, as well as a feeling that his bones were about to shatter. If it wasn't for the fact that his fiend transformation art had already reached the third level, he would definitely have been injured by this attack. In terms of strength, Sir Potion was extremely terrifying. But Qin Wentian discovered that Sir Potion had a weakness: his speed. The reason why Sir Potion chose to use stellar transposition was because he knew that he was lacking in terms of speed. But of course, whether or not his speed was slow depended on who he was fighting against. If he was fighting against ordinary cultivators at the peak of Yuanfu, his speed definitely wouldn't be any slower. Busy. A raging wind billowed as a pair of gigantic demonic wings fluttered in the wind. It was as though those wings were a part of Qin Wentian's body. Demonic qi gushed forth, and gradually, a demonic silhouette appeared. Qin Wentian's body was enveloped by a screen of demonic light, resembling a true golden-winged rock. That terrifying demonic light circulated around his body, transforming into the most perfect outline of a great rock. There was a limit to the speed of a human, but if one transformed into a rock, how terrifying would their speed be? And this golden-winged rock, did it have the innate abilities of a human? This was the tyrannical aspect of the fiend transformation art. Qin Wentian was able to perfectly combine the advantages of both humans and demons. The third level of the fiend transformation art, fiend transformation. Qin Wentian transformed into a demonic rock. What a powerful innate technique. The hearts of the spectators trembled. Qin Wentian actually transformed into a demonic rock. The eyes of the defeated Emperor Azure gleamed with sharpness. Qin Wentian's fiend transformation art had actually reached the demonic transformation realm. As a descendant of the D clan, he had suffered crushing defeats in every aspect. A raging wind gusted by. On the arena platform, Qin Wentian's silhouette vanished, instantly reappearing in front of Sir Potion. The bell chimes rang out. The great rock actually blasted out an ancient bell, aiming for Sir Potion's heart. At the same time, a terrifying claw flashed past, slashing towards Sir Potion. Sir Potion's countenance turned grim. His long spear slammed out explosively. Although his movement technique was slow, his attack speed was still extremely fast. However, he still didn't manage to touch Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's figure flickered as another bell chime rang out, piercing his heart. The bell chimes continued unceasingly as the sharp claws slashed towards Sir Potion's back. Sir Potion gave up on the golden dragon spear. Turning back, he blasted out a terrifying ancient heavenly dragon imprint. Instantly, the roar of a dragon resounded through the air, but at the instant he touched Qin Wentian, the great rock was already nothing but an afterimage. Fast, too fast. Qin Wentian was using his speed to break through Sir Potion's advantage in strength. In that short instant, the two of them clashed countless times. On the arena platform, Countless silhouettes appeared around Sherpatian. All of them were the silhouettes of the great rock, as well as the sharp claws of the heavenly dragon imprint. Sherpatian had terrifying strength, yet he had nowhere to unleash it. Even under the effect of gravity, he had no way to slow down Qin Wentian's speed. Qin Wentian's mandate of force was also very strong. It was able to contend against his mandate of gravity. The spectators were completely speechless when they saw this scene. Sherpatian had no way to unleash his full strength. Sherpatian was infuriated. His heart pounded madly. If this continued, his heart would be destroyed, and he would die without a doubt. Sherpatian was infuriated. His heart pounded madly. If this continued, his heart would be destroyed, and he would die without a doubt. With a thunderous roar, Sherpatian's bloodline surged to the heavens. The spectators only saw the silhouette of a gigantic primordial demonic beast appearing within Sherpatian's body. Sherpatian's entire body grew taller and taller as he let out a roar of rage. The sound waves from his roar seemed capable of shattering flesh and blood. Sherpatian has completely unleashed the power of his bloodline. The hearts of the spectators trembled. As expected, these people still had trump cards hidden up their sleeves. Sherpatian's gigantic palms directly grabbed towards the air, ignoring the incoming attacks, wanting to tear Qin Wentian apart. However, Qin Wentian's silhouette instantly vanished, and a palm strike landed on his back, yet Sherpatian completely ignored it. The body of an ancient demonic beast was as sturdy as a mountain, indestructible. Too late. The voice of a human rang out from the great rock's mouth. Sherpatian was still frenziedly attacking, while Qin Wentian, who was in the form of a great rock, quietly stood behind him. This bizarre scene once again caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. Is Sherpatian trapped in an illusion? Is this the reason why when Qin Wentian was fighting against Emperor Azure's saber slashed at the wrong spot? Sherpatian frenziedly unleashed attacks towards the afterimages in the air. Qin Wentian, who was standing behind him, could sense how terrifying Sherpatian's aura was. His heart shuddered, but everything had already ended. The light around him manifested the silhouettes of numerous great rocks. In an instant, the silhouettes of the great rock formed an incomparably gigantic silhouette, completely enveloping Qin Wentian within. Is that a divine inscription of combat? Chapter 384. Qin Wentian had truly brought too much astonishment to the spectators. Initially, they had thought that with Sherpatian's terrifying strength, although he wouldn't be able to suppress Qin Wentian, it wouldn't be a problem for him to win. However, at this moment, their confidence started to waver. Sherpatian had actually fallen into an illusory realm. Was that really an illusory realm? No, that's definitely not an illusory realm. Emperor Azure had experienced Qin Wentian's strength before. Not only that, he himself was proficient in illusory realms, yet that strike of his had landed on the wrong spot. It wasn't an illusory realm at all. It was as though everything had happened in reality. Given Emperor Azure's control over illusions, it was impossible for him to fall into an illusory realm. Not only that, powerful wills would be able to extricate themselves from it. For someone as terrifying as Sherpatian, it was impossible for him to fall into an illusory realm. At that time, Emperor Azure felt as though everything that happened was real, deeply imprinted into his consciousness. But in the end it was proven to be fake, just like Sherpatian. Emperor Azure knew that this was a type of mandate that was similar to the mandate of illusions. And that terrifying great rock, was that a combat divine inscription? A fourth-ranked combat divine inscription? The terrifying great rock accompanied Qin Wentian as they dashed forwards, like a beam of light, exuding a terrifying might that could destroy everything. The purgatory vermilion bird hovering above Qin Wentian's vermilion bird held an absolute advantage against Sherpatian's vermilion bird. As Qin Wentian grew stronger, his vermilion bird also grew more and more violent and terrifying. Sherpatian finally realized something. Everything he saw was fake. It wasn't an illusory realm technique, it was an illusion created by him. An illusory realm technique allowed him to see things that were illusory and not real. However, what Sherpatian saw earlier wasn't an illusion, it was an illusion created by him. Boom! The terrifying great rock slammed into Sherpatian, instantly sending him flying through the air. His armor shattered as fresh blood flowed through the air, and he slammed heavily onto the ground. On the platform, the Purgatory Vermilion Bird had also swallowed Sure Potion's Vermilion Bird, ending the battle at the same time. Qin Wentian, who had transformed into the rock, stood up slowly and transformed into a human again. His breath was slightly fluctuating. His long robe and black hair were flying in the air. Staring at the silhouette of Qin Wentian, everyone understood that this dark horse was preparing to descend to the next round. Qin Wentian had defeated Sherpatian, the one who had the highest chance of contending for the top position in the Heavenly Fate rankings. Although Qin Wentian had seized Sure Potion's weakness and attacked crazily, making Sherpatian unable to play his advantage, he still won. Qin Wentian's comprehensive strength was too terrifying. He seemed to have no weaknesses. In terms of strength, he could crush too many people. Those who were stronger than him couldn't compare to him in speed. Moreover, he could transform into a demon, and had a terrifying ability comparable to the will of illusion. The ancient bell he shot out seemed to be able to destroy hearts. During battle, he could condense battle divine inscriptions in the air, and they were extremely terrifying battle divine inscriptions. All three battles had ended. Chen Wang defeated Zhan Chen. Si Qiong had defeated the black-robed figure. Qin Wentian had defeated Sherpatian. The final battle was undoubtedly the most shocking. It wasn't the process but rather the ending. Next, Chen Wang will battle Sherpatian, Si Qiong will battle Zhan Chen, and Qin Wentian will battle the black-robed figure. Old Man Tianji's voice rang out. The three victors would fight against the three losers. This way, they could avoid a clash of the strongest, and at the same time, the rankings wouldn't be determined by a single battle. That would be unfair. For example, although Sherpatian had lost to Qin Wentian, what if he was stronger than Si Qiong? If he was ranked third, it would naturally be unfair to him. Therefore, there would be such a mismatch. This kind of battle would make the final ranking more convincing. Naturally, before the battles began, the participants had to be given sufficient time to recover from their earlier exhaustion and injuries. Only when Chen Wang and Sherpatian stood on the platform did the gazes of the countless spectators once again converge on the platform. This time around, Sherpatian didn't even have the Vermilion Bird spirit, but the spectators were still filled with anticipation for this battle. However, because of Sure Potion's defeat, the spectators' view of him had already changed. Everyone believed that Chen Wang would defeat Sherpatian, and no one was optimistic about Sure Potion's chances. The winner is the king, and the loser is the villain. If Sherpatian defeated Chen Wang, didn't that mean that Qin Wentian would be able to defeat Chen Wang as well? This battle was extremely important to Sherpatian. He couldn't afford to lose again, but the person he was facing now was Chen Wang. At the first instant, Sherpatian unleashed the innate technique from his bloodline. His body expanded in size, resembling an ancient demonic beast, unexcelled in the world. His strength, defense, and attack had all increased to an unfathomable level. Chen Wang was also extremely serious. His astral soul erupted forth as the great sun dharma body manifested. The battle between the two of them used the most direct method, colliding head-on. On the arena platform, the flaming giant and the ancient demonic beast were engaged in a frenzied battle. Every time they collided, the spectators could feel their blood boiling. Chen Wang's flaming body was on the verge of breaking apart, while Sure Potion's body was engulfed in flames, as though he was about to transform into a flaming giant. Sherpatian, you can't do it. Abruptly, a voice rang out from the arena platform, after which, the spectators only saw the great sun dharma body above Chen Wang's head radiating a resplendent light, as though his astral soul had fused together with it. A gigantic palm imprint that seemed capable of annihilating the heavens, and earth slammed down toward Sherpatian. Sherpatian roared. He didn't use stellar transposition to evade. In this battle, Chen Wang wanted to use the most direct method to settle everything. How could he retreat? Bang! As the palm strike landed, Sure Potion's body transformed into a body of lava. His bones and blood seemed to be on the verge of melting into flames, being assimilated by Chen Wang. A look of struggle appeared on Sure Potion's face. Get down! Chen Wang waved his palms, sending Sherpa flying off the arena platform. For this battle, Chen Wang was the victor. Sherpa was defeated once again. If Qin Wentian defeated the black-robed figure, that would mean that he, Sherpa, would still have one last chance to fight against Si Qiong. If he defeated Si Qiong, it would mean that he was stronger than Si Qiong, and would naturally be stronger than Zhang Chen and the black-robed figure. But if Qin Wentian was defeated by the black-robed figure, he would no longer have the qualifications to fight against Si Qiong, because the black-robed figure had been defeated by Si Qiong before. If he defeated Qin Wentian, it would mean that he would be able to defeat Sherpa as well, and there would be no need for him to continue fighting. But no matter how one looked at it, Sherpa's chances of becoming one of the top 3 were practically zero. And as expected, in the following battle, Si Qiong also defeated Zhang Chen. Even more so, no one believed that Sherpa would be able to defeat Si Qiong. Sherpa and Zhang Chen were both defeated twice in a row, causing the spectators to involuntarily sigh in their hearts. On the stage of the final battle, even someone as strong as Sherpa and Zhang Chen had no choice but to accept their consecutive defeats. One couldn't help but to say that this was extremely cruel. Zhang Chen had prepared for this battle for far too long, yet he had already lost to Chen Wang and Si Qiong. He wouldn't allow himself to be defeated a third time, absolutely not. Sherpa was even more miserable. Not only did he lose to Chen Wang, he even lost to Qin Wentian. He was ranked number 3 in the previous Heavenly Fate rankings, but this time around, it was extremely difficult for him to be ranked number 3. Next, we'll have to see the outcome of the battle between Qin Wentian and the black-robed figure. For this battle, there shouldn't be too much of a disparity. Qin Wentian is very strong, but the black-robed figure was able to injure Si Qiong. He definitely isn't a simple character. The spectators were speculating in their hearts with regards to the outcome of this battle. What would the outcome of this battle be exactly? Would the tyrannical devil art of the black-robed figure be able to suppress Qin Wentian? Qin Wentian's attacks were also getting more and more bizarre. Would his illusory techniques be effective against the black-robed figure? When the two of them stood on the arena platform, the previously calm hearts of the spectators were once again stirred. Both of them could be considered dark horses of the Heavenly Fate rankings this time around. Qin Wentian didn't belong to any major powers, and the black-robed figure didn't even know of his identity. Now that they were facing each other, they were about to clash head-on. Who are you? Qin Wentian stared at the black-robed figure. Contrary to the expectations of the spectators, Qin Wentian didn't immediately make a move. Instead, he questioned the identity of the black-robed figure. The black-robed figure had helped him twice before, and with regards to the identity of the black-robed figure, Qin Wentian had always been filled with curiosity. But he had also injured Mo Qingqing on the arena platform. Initially, Qin Wentian was filled with both curiosity and gratitude towards the black-robed figure. But after his battle with Mo Qingqing, Qin Wentian started to doubt himself. He had to know the identity of the black-robed figure. The black-robed figure coldly stared at him, not saying a word. If you don't speak, I will personally unveil your veil. Qin Wentian's voice was ice-cold, as the aura from his body erupted forth. Kill me, or injure me heavily. You might be able to see who I am. And if you lose, I won't show you any mercy. The voice of the black-robed figure was hoarse. In the minds of the spectators, he had never spoken before. But at this moment he actually spoke. Demonic chi gushed forth from the black-robed figure, as terrifying devil clouds appeared in the air. A series of whistling sounds could be heard as the demonic chi gushed towards Qin Wentian. As you wish. Qin Wentian walked towards the black-robed figure, his aura towering up to the heavens. The blood in his body churned, as demonic chi gathered in his palms. A pair of wings appeared on his back. Facing the black-robed figure, Qin Wentian naturally wouldn't underestimate him. With a flap of his wings, Qin Wentian's silhouette vanished, instantly appearing before his opponent. His opponent's devil palm slammed over. Qin Wentian wasn't polite at all. With a lift of his hand, a tyrannical dragon imprint blasted out. The might of their attacks was incomparably terrifying. In an instant, the two of them collided. Qin Wentian swept his eyes over, as a terrifying will of mandates gushed into the mind of the black-robed figure. But at this moment, the devilish might of the black-robed figure suddenly vanished without a trace. Not only that, the palm imprint of the black-robed figure directly landed on Qin Wentian's chest. Qin Wentian's countenance drastically changed. Draconic roars echoed in the air as the terrifying dragon imprint slammed down. To Qin Wentian's shock, the black-robed figure actually opened up his chest, allowing the draconic roars to land on him. Boom! The terrifying attack slammed into the chest of the black-robed figure without any reservations. His black robes were instantly torn apart as his body was flung through the air like a kite with a broken string, slamming into the golden feather pillar of the Vermilion Bird Arena platform. After which, he slumped onto the ground as fresh blood flowed unceasingly from his mouth. This scene caused the spectators to be dumbfounded. At the last instant, the black-robed figure actually gave up on attacking? How could this be? What was going on exactly? Even Qin Wentian had a puzzled look on his face. He didn't understand why the black-robed figure would do this. After a moment of shock, Qin Wentian lifted his feet and walked towards the black-robed figure. The black-robed figure's black robes were already torn apart, but the veil was still there. In fact, he could even see a head full of silky black hair, as well as a pair of extremely beautiful eyes. Faintly, they seemed somewhat familiar. Who are you? Qin Wentian's heart tightened. He squatted down and placed his hand on the veil of the black-robed figure, removing it. What was exposed was a pair of extremely delicate and beautiful faces. She was very young and very beautiful. Many in the crowd stared at the face of the black-robed figure, and those who could see it clearly felt their hearts trembling in shock. How could this be possible? The black-robed figure who cultivated that tyrannical devil art was actually such a beautiful lady? Not only that, although blood flowed unceasingly from the corners of her mouth, her beautiful eyes flickered with a smile that contained traces of tears. Qin Wentian finally recognized this beautiful face. Although it had changed greatly, he still recognized it. His heart violently pounded, as he felt a twinge of pain in his heart. Why did you do this? Qin Wentian let out a low roar, as his palms gently brushed past the beautiful face, wiping away the blood from the corners of her mouth. Atone for the sins of father and sister, and say sorry on their behalf. A gentle voice sounded out from the mouth of the lady. In her eyes, a smile could still be seen, a smile that was extremely beautiful. The corners of her lips trembled slightly, as she stared at Qin Wentian. Smiling, she called out, "Wentian Gij." Chapter 385. Wentian Gij. A melodious and gentle voice rang out in Qin Wentian's ears, permeating the air, causing time to stop. Countless bewildered faces stared at the arena platform. The fact that the user of the tyrannical devil art was actually a female had already caused them to be astonished. Not only that, this female was also extremely young and beautiful. What was even more shocking was that she was actually acquainted with Qin Wentian, and even intimately referred to Qin Wentian as Wentian Gij. The tears at the corner of the female's eyes, the smile on her beautiful face, as well as the traces of blood at the corner of her mouth, all of this brought about a sense of poignant beauty. The crowd didn't understand, since the black-robed figure was so close to Qin Wentian. Why would she still do such a thing? In the midst of the crowd, Bai Qingsong clenched his fists tightly, while autumn snow bit her lips as they stared in the direction of the arena platform. They hated themselves, but now, they still needed Bai Qing to atone for their sins. They had told Bai Qing about the past, that Qin Wentian didn't kill Bai Qingsong for the sake of Bai Qing. Maybe because of this, Bai Qing still felt guilty in her heart, and chose such a method. But in reality, there was no need for her to do so. Silly lass. Qin Wentian sat on the arena platform, supporting Bai Qing's body up, allowing her head to rest on his thighs. Caressing her cheeks, he continued. Do you know that doing this would only make Wentian Gij feel even worse? If I had been a little more ruthless earlier, wouldn't I have hated you for the rest of my life? Never in Qin Wentian's wildest dreams would he have imagined that the black-robed figure would actually be Bai Qing, the little lass who loved to follow behind him. Now that she had grown up, she had become even more beautiful than her elder sister, Autumn Snow, one of the four great beauties of Sky Harmony City. Not only that, she was also so powerful. But in Qin Wentian's memories, she was still that innocent and adorable lass. Qin Wentian would never be able to forget that night when Bai Qingsong wanted to deal with him. Bai Qing had carried a dagger behind her father's back, allowing him to kidnap her. After so many years, this lass had once again done such a foolish thing. In that case, Wentian Gij will always remember me. Bai Qing still had a radiant smile on her face, just like when she was a young girl. Her smile was as pure and radiant as ever. Although she could transform into a powerful devil when she wore the black robes, in front of her Wentian Gij, she was still a young girl. Don't say such things. Qin Wentian glared at Bai Qing, after which he turned his gaze to the crowd below the platform as he called out, "Qingqing, that's my younger sister, Qing." Mo Qingqing's silhouette flickered as she landed on the arena platform. She slowly walked to the side of Bai Qing as a few medicinal pills appeared in her hands, which she fed into Bai Qing's mouth. "Sister Qingqing, you are so beautiful." Qing'er revealed a mischievous smile. "Sister Qingqing, I have no ill intentions towards you. I just want to see how my sister-in-law is doing." "Who's your sister-in-law?" Mo Qingqing was rendered speechless by the words of this lass. But when she saw the innocent smile on Bai Qing's face, how could she bear to blame her? This silly girl, she even dared to throw her life away just now. "Then I'll call you sister. You are not allowed to be angry with me." Bai Qing smiled foolishly. Mo Qingqing nodded her head lightly. "Don't worry, why would I be angry with you? Okay, let's go down." Qin Wentian felt extremely uncomfortable as he felt the gazes of the crowd. Supporting Bai Qing up, Bai Qing's gaze shifted to the direction of the Mystic Moon Hall. Her eyes landed on a black-robed female as she bowed. "Master, disciple can only reach this point in the Heavenly Fate ranking battle. I hope I didn't lose your face." Only now did the crowd notice that the black robes on Bai Qing were extremely similar to the black robes worn by those from the Mystic Moon Hall. So it turned out that she was actually someone from the Mystic Moon Hall. That female disciple nodded her head lightly as she calmly stated, "Qing, the knot in your heart has been untied. The ranking battle of the Heavenly Fate rankings is also sufficient to bring glory to our sect. Have a good rest." "Thank you, Master." Bai Qing nodded her head as she walked down the arena platform with Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing. The ranking battle of the Heavenly Fate rankings had always been dominated by the 7 great clans of Grand Xia. The majority of the participants belonged to the 7 great clans. Bai Qing from the Mystic Moon Hall, being able to achieve such an achievement was already an extremely outstanding feat naturally. Her achievements would also bring glory to the Mystic Moon Hall. The gazes of many were still fixated on Qin Wentian, as their curiosity towards him grew stronger and stronger. Qin Wentian, the dark horse of the Heavenly Fate rankings, had already secured a spot in the top 4. He had a beautiful girlfriend like Mo Qingqing, as well as a beautiful and powerful younger sister. Not only that, it seemed that this beautiful woman wasn't even his biological sister. This caused the hearts of the spectators to be filled with different thoughts. Another round of the Heavenly Fate rankings had ended. Chen Wang defeated Sherpatian. Si Qiong defeated Zhan Chen. Qin Wentian defeated the black-robed figure. Perhaps it couldn't even be considered a battle. Following which, the black-robed figure voluntarily withdrew from the Heavenly Fate rankings, no longer persisting. On the Heavenly Fate rankings, the name of Bai Qing from the Mystic Moon Hall appeared in the number 6 position. Next, it was time for the 2 losers, Sherpatian and Zhan Chen, to battle. Sherpatian was defeated by Chen Wang and Qin Wentian, while Zhan Chen was defeated by Chen Wang and Si Qiong. This meant that as long as Sherpatian defeated Zhan Chen, there would be no need for Zhan Chen to continue fighting against Qin Wentian. He would directly be ranked number 5, while Sherpatian would obtain the qualifications to challenge Si Qiong. And if Zhan Chen defeated Sherpatian, it meant that there was no need for Sherpatian to fight against Si Qiong. Sherpatian would be ranked number 5, while Zhan Chen would obtain the qualifications to challenge Qin Wentian. After Old Man Tianji made the announcement, he allowed them to rest for a period of time. As for the ending of the battle, the spectators couldn't predict it. Sherpatian and Zhan Chen had both lost 2 battles. Between the two of them, who was stronger? Both of them had lost to Chen Wang. As for Shi Potion's defeat to Qin Wentian, it was because of his speed. Zhang Chen's defeat was because Zhang Chen didn't have an advantage in other aspects, but when it came to soul attacks, even if his golden body was indestructible, his soul would still be destroyed. When Shi Potian and Zhang Chen appeared on the arena platform, an intense battle intent radiated from them. They had already lost 2 battles in a row. They absolutely couldn't afford to lose again. If they lost again, they would directly be ranked number 5 on the Heavenly Fate rankings, and if they won, they would still have a chance to fight for the number 3 position. For this battle, the conviction of the two of them was incomparably strong. Shi Potion's physique grew even more violent as his primordial demonic bloodline erupted forth. His body transformed into a gigantic boulder, containing a towering might. Shi Potion's offense and defense could be said to be one of the most fearsome existences on the Heavenly Fate rankings. Yet in his first battle he was defeated by Qin Wentian's speed and divine inscriptions, and in his second battle he met Chen Wang. Zhang Chen's countenance turned sharp. He could feel an intense sense of threat emanating from Shi Potian. We can't afford to lose this battle. It was unknown how terrifying Zhang Chen's eyes were, but at this moment he actually closed his eyes. His lips trembled, as though a terrifying energy was awakening within him. A wondrous sound wave permeated the air, containing an incomparably majestic energy that enveloped Zhang Chen. Zhang Chen actually has a secret art. The hearts of the spectators trembled, after which, astral light cascaded downwards, landing on Zhang Chen's body. Boundless golden light flashed as Zhang Chen's body was bathed in it. The sharpness he exuded grew stronger and stronger. Ancient will summon, Zhang Chen murmured, after which, his entire body trembled violently, and at the instant he opened his eyes, a beam of golden light could be seen flickering in the center of his brows. His eyes grew even more demonic, giving the spectators a feeling that his eyes no longer belonged to a single person, but rather, contained the brilliance of 2 people. It was incomparably terrifying. Borrow the boundless golden yuan punishment. Around Zhang Chen, a fearsome golden light shimmered. Step by step, he advanced toward Shi Potian. Every single beam of golden light he exuded contained the power of punishment, unparalleled might. Pung! Shi Potian stomped his foot on the arena platform, stepping forward. The strength he exuded was also incomparably terrifying. Yet at this moment, he actually felt an intense sense of danger from Zhang Chen. Zhang Chen also stepped toward Shi Potian. Every step he took caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. Demonic chi and golden light enveloped the entire arena platform. The power of punishment felt as though it wanted to penetrate through Shi Potion's body. Roar! Finally, at the instant the two of them neared each other, Shi Potian unleashed his strongest attack. A gigantic golden dragon roared as the silhouette of a terrifying primordial demon manifested. This strike of his seemed capable of destroying the heavens and earth, flattening the mountains and rivers. Zhang Chen similarly unleashed his own attack. Boundless golden light converged together to form the power of punishment, blasting forth with his body, destroying everything in its path. Pung 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 pung, the terrifying light of punishment exploded apart, but it seemed as though there was no end to it. Cracks gradually appeared on the surface of the golden dragon, and finally, Zhang Chen pierced through it with his golden Punisher sword. The golden dragon broke apart, and a deafening rumbling sound echoed out as Shi Potion's armor exploded apart. A sword pierced through his chest, bit by bit. Boom! A thunderous sound rang out as Shi Potion's body was flung through the air. The sword had penetrated through his chest, causing fresh blood to flow out. The spectators watched on as Shi Potian was flung through the air, falling off the arena platform. Zhang Chen stood at the edge of the arena platform, his aura fluctuating violently. He closed his eyes as the terrifying energy he was radiating gradually retracted. Zhang Chen had won. He had used his attacks to clash with Shi Potian, and he had won. However, it seemed that even Zhang Chen wasn't able to easily control this energy. When Zhang Chen opened his eyes, he slowly turned around, gazing in the direction of Qin Wentian. Although he had lost 2 battles, he would still be able to obtain the 3rd ranking. Staring at Zhang Chen's gaze, the spectators couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. Qin Wentian, this dark horse, was about to come to a halt. Zhang Chen would do the same thing he did to Sherpatian, disregarding everything else to control that terrifying energy. After the conclusion of this battle, the next battle would be between Zhang Chen and Qin Wentian, Chen Wang and Si Qiong. If Zhang Chen defeated Qin Wentian, he would be able to obtain the third ranking, while Qin Wentian would be ranked fourth. As for Chen Wang and Si Qiong, it would be the final battle. Naturally, if Qin Wentian was able to defeat Zhang Chen, he would be ranked within the top 3, contending against Chen Wang and Si Qiong for the top 3 rankings. However, the spectators who had just witnessed this battle all felt that Qin Wentian wouldn't be able to win. Qin Wentian was very strong, but Zhang Chen had defeated Sherpatian head-on. This was something only Chen Wang had accomplished before, and now, Zhang Chen had also accomplished it. Most probably, the battle between Chen Wang and Si Qiong would be the final battle. Chapter 386. There were only 2 more matches remaining in the Heavenly Fate rankings. As long as Zhang Chen defeated Qin Wentian, the final battle would be between Chen Wang and Si Qiong. Chen Wang didn't disappoint the crowd, he managed to reach the very end. However, his opponent wasn't Sherpatian or Emperor Azure, but the strongest dark horse, Si Qiong. The strength of this dark horse was so terrifying that it was as though there was nothing he couldn't do. He was proficient in all sorts of ultimate arts of Grand Xia, and what he was most proficient in was soul attacks. There was no way to counter such attacks, there was no one who wouldn't fear him. Si Qiong seemed to have no weaknesses at all. Not only that, the spectators didn't know how magnificent the flames would be when Chen Wang and Si Qiong clashed. Chen Wang, the most anticipated opponent. Si Qiong, the most terrifying dark horse. In the air, Old Man Tianji stared at the remaining 4 contenders, his gaze lingering on each of them for a brief moment. The fate of Grand Xia was about to change, starting from the Heavenly Fate rankings. He had always believed that a demonic star would appear on the Heavenly Fate rankings. Sherpatian and Emperor Azure were both demonic cultivators. However, both of them had already been eliminated, failing to live up to the expectations of everyone. Only Qin Wentian had slaughtered his way up until now. If it was really him, Qin Wentian would definitely be able to influence the fate of Grand Xia in the future. Would he stop here today? For the next 2 battles, Zhang Chen vs Qin Wentian, Chen Wang vs Si Qiong. Old Man Tianji slowly spoke. His gaze landed on Zhang Chen as he asked, "Zhang Chen, are you willing to continue? I need to rest for a while." Zhang Chen looked at Old Man Tianji as he slowly spoke. Old Man Tianji nodded, as he glanced in the direction of Qin Wentian. After which he spoke, "Since this is the case, let the battle between Chen Wang and Si Qiong begin first." Amici? The spectators were all stunned when they heard Old Man Tianji's words. The battle between Chen Wang and Si Qiong would begin first? This battle might very well be the final battle of the Heavenly Fate rankings. Originally, it should have been ranked last. Why did it have to be started first? In the ranking battle of the Heavenly Fate rankings, it was usually reserved for the final battle. There were very few exceptions. Earlier, when they saw Zhang Chen's trump card, many believed that he would be able to defeat Qin Wentian, becoming the number 3 ranker of the Heavenly Fate rankings while Qin Wentian was ranked number 4. In that case, Chen Wang and Si Qiong would be the final battle. The Elder of Heavenly Secrets had actually brought forward the decisive battle. Many people didn't understand, but since the start of time, the authority to decide the Heavenly Fate rankings had always been in the hands of Old Man Tianji from the Venerate Heavens sect. The blazing rays of the sun cascaded down onto the arena platform. Chen Wang and Si Qiong walked up, basking in the sunlight as they attracted the attention of countless spectators. Today, who would become the most dazzling figure in the Heavenly Fate rankings? Was it Chen Wang or Si Qiong? Your strength isn't bad. Although I don't have much interest in the Heavenly Fate rankings, since I'm already standing here, the number 1 position naturally belongs to me. Si Qiong stared at Chen Wang as he calmly stated. It was as though the number 1 position was already in his bag. In the previous Heavenly Fate rankings, I was ranked 2nd. Today the position of 1st shall belong to me. Even if it's you, you won't be able to block my path. Chen Wang similarly stared at Si Qiong, exuding a domineering aura. He was Chen Wang, He wanted the #1 position in the heavenly fate rankings. He had been waiting for this day for a very long time. Since this is the case, let's talk with our strength. Si Qiong was extremely calm. As though nothing could cause his heart to waver. Chen Wang's body began to combust. Under the sunlight, he was bathed in flames. His blood, bones, and his entire body transformed into a body of fire. His third astral soul, the strongest astral soul, was released. Above his head, a great sun venerable appeared, fusing together with the sun, causing the terrifying temperature to engulf the entire arena platform. It was as though anyone who dared to approach him would die, burned to death by the flames of the great sun venerable. Si Qiong similarly released his third astral soul. It was a terrifying evil soul that had a pair of soul-stirring eyes, capable of causing the souls of those who stared at it to waver. Pung! Pung! Astral light erupted as both of them used stellar transposition at the first instant. In an instant, the two of them collided in the middle, so fast that the spectators couldn't even see where they had appeared from. A terrifying palm imprint of flames blasted out, wanting to annihilate everything. The scorching heat caused the water vapor in the air to evaporate, emitting a terrifying sizzling sound. Si Qiong's left hand stabbed out, instantly forming a shield of light. Chen Wang's flaming palm imprint slammed downwards, sinking deep into the shield, as though it had slammed into an incomparably soft mirror made of water. This was none other than the power of Si Qiong's mandate of water. Other than soul attacks, he was also proficient in the mandate of water. Only during the final battle, when he was fighting against Chen Wang, did he finally unleash his full potential. Pung! The water shield shattered as the terrifying flames caused it to explode. The temperature of Chen Wang's palm was too terrifying. It continued blasting toward Si Qiong. However, Si Qiong had already bought enough time to counter with a finger strike. The soul annihilation finger. A single finger strike could annihilate a soul. Split. Chen Wang spat out a cold voice. In an instant, Chen Wang's body split into three. One terrifying flame god after another appeared, each of them resembling a fiery god of war that had just emerged from magma. Such a scene caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. #1. Chen Wang wanted to be #1. This was Chen Wang's true strength. He had been concealing it all this time, and only now did he unleash it all. Si Qiong was similarly terrifying. He only unleashed his full potential during the final battle. The three flaming bodies simultaneously rushed toward Si Qiong. The two flaming giants beside him exuded an aura so powerful that it was terrifying. They were at the pinnacle of Yuanfu, and were on the verge of breaking through to Yuanfu. Si Qiong stared at Chen Wang's silhouette in front of him. With a wave of his hands, a water shield appeared, trapping the flaming giants within. Si Qiong's movement technique was extremely terrifying. He unceasingly moved about, blasting out beams of finger light towards Chen Wang, wanting to destroy his soul. Speed. Si Qiong's speed is also so fast. Speed, soul annihilation attacks, water shield defense. Si Qiong simply has no weaknesses. The spectators couldn't help but to exclaim in admiration. Even Chen Wang was being suppressed by Si Qiong's soul attacks. Finally, with a howl of rage, the two flaming bodies merged together with Chen Wang's original body. Chen Wang's body grew larger. It was as though he had truly transformed into a flaming war god, exuding an aura that transcended beyond Yuanfu. Indeed, Chen Wang already had the ability to break through to Heavenly Dipper. It's just that he was suppressing it, waiting for the end of the Heavenly Fate rankings before he broke through. The current Chen Wang is already equivalent to a Heavenly Dipper sovereign. The hearts of the spectators sighed. This was too shocking. Chen Wang's astral soul had already fused together with his body. No one doubted that Chen Wang would break through to Heavenly Dipper the moment the Heavenly Fate rankings ended. Not only that, based on his attainments in the Mandate of Mandate, once he broke through to Heavenly Dipper, his speed wouldn't be any slower compared to those who had already broken through to Heavenly Dipper. Hence, Chen Wang didn't lose much by waiting for the Heavenly Fate rankings. On the contrary, he had gained quite a bit. Chen Wang, who was now one with Si Qiong, erupted with lava flames. His palms blasted out once more as a gigantic flaming palm imprint covered the entire space in front of him. Si Qiong soared up into the air, his palms slashing out as a prison of water appeared. His silhouette shot towards Chen Wang, his 5 palms striking out at the same time, aiming for Chen Wang's head. Roar! Chen Wang opened his mouth and spat out flames, after which, the flames abruptly solidified, causing the space in front of him to solidify. Even the water screen was about to solidify. Si Qiong was actually trapped within. You've lost! Chen Wang roared as he slammed out with his palms. Si Qiong's body was flung through the air, and at the instant the flames exploded, Si Qiong's countenance turned pale. This strongest dark horse ultimately didn't make it to the end. He was defeated by Chen Wang. However, this battle at the pinnacle had truly broadened the horizons of the spectators. This was the Heavenly Fate rankings this time around, so powerful that it caused the spectators to feel stifled. Si Qiong stood up, staring at Chen Wang. Drawing in a deep breath, Si Qiong calmly stated, "You indeed have the qualifications to contend for the top spot in the Heavenly Fate rankings. Congratulations on obtaining the first position." Chen Wang's countenance turned calm as he inclined his head, staring at the skies. "You're already very strong. After this battle, I'm afraid I'll need to rest for a long period of time before I can fully recover." "It's not easy to obtain the first position," Chen Wang calmly stated. The spectators inclined their heads and stared at the arena platform as they sighed in their hearts. This battle at the pinnacle was truly fascinating. Chen Wang truly deserved to be the first. Has the Heavenly Fate rankings already ended? A discordant voice abruptly rang out, filled with doubt. The gazes of the spectators shifted over, only to see Qin Wentian floating in the air, staring at Chen Wang and Si Qiong. The two of them kept on referring to themselves as the top ranker, as though the ranking battle had already ended. Chen Wang glanced at Qin Wentian, as a look of disdain flashed in his eyes. "Count yourself lucky that you didn't encounter me this time around. Don't tell me you want to fight against me in your current state?" A mocking smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face. "If that's the case, I can ask Senior for permission. I don't mind blasting you off the platform." Chen Wang furrowed his brows. His current state wasn't very good. "Ridiculous," Chen Wang icily replied. "Ridiculous." A demonic light flickered in Qin Wentian's eyes as he coldly stated, "The ranking battle hasn't ended yet, and the top ranker has yet to be determined. How shameless can you be? If you were to be defeated, wouldn't you be throwing away all your face?" As the sound of his voice faded, Qin Wentian was already standing on the arena platform. The powerful purgatory vermilion bird hovered behind him, its eyes gleaming with a terrifying sharpness as it stared at Chen Wang. Qin Wentian quietly stood on the arena platform, demonic qi billowing out from him. This scene caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble, as they felt that it was extremely interesting. This Qin Wentian hadn't given up yet. He still wanted to fight for the top spot. But although he wasn't bad, if he wanted to contend against Chen Wang, he still had to defeat Zhang Chen and Si Qiong first. "You're truly confident." A voice drifted over. The spectators only saw Zhang Chen stepping onto the arena platform, coldly laughing as he stared at Qin Wentian. "Finally, we're face to face. This time around, you better think about how you're going to survive." Qin Wentian also stared at Zhang Chen. This was someone he had to defeat no matter what, regardless of whether it was for the top 3 rankings, or for the promise he made to Mo Qingcheng. As long as he defeated Zhang Chen, everything would be accomplished. "Where does your confidence come from? It's been so many years, yet you're still at this level of strength." Qin Wentian mocked. "Is that so? At the very least, with your current cultivation base at the 8th level of Yuanfu, do you really think you can contend against me?" The sharpness in Zhang Chen's voice grew denser and denser. The person he wanted to defeat and kill the most was none other than Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's demonic eyes stared up at the skies as the corners of his lips curled up. When he turned his gaze back to Zhang Chen, the aura he exuded exploded forth in a frenzy. Taking a step forward, a terrifying demonic aura gushed out from his body. The energy he exuded seemed to be boiling as a raging wind swept across the area. "Who told you that I'm at the 8th level of Yuanfu?" Qin Wentian roared. The instant his foot landed, the aura of a cultivator at the 9th level of Yuanfu gushed forth, gushing towards Zhang Chen. Chapter 387. Ninth level of Yuanfu. Qin Wentian's cultivation base wasn't at the 8th level, but rather, the 9th. Chen Wang, Si Qiang, and Zhan Chen had all been concealing their true strength. Qin Wentian, on the other hand, had been concealing his cultivation base. Only at this moment, when everyone thought that the victor had already been decided and the curtains of the ranking battle were about to fall, did he step out. Only now did the spectators realize that before this, no one had been able to force Chen Wang and Si Qiang to use their full strength. Similarly, no one had been able to force Qin Wentian to use his full strength. At this moment, the spectators couldn't help but to recall the arrogance Qin Wentian displayed when he fought against Emperor Azure. He was absolutely confident that he could defeat Emperor Azure in 10 breaths of time, because he knew that his cultivation base wasn't at the 8th level, but the 9th. When did he step into the 9th level of Yuanfu? At this moment, a question popped up in the minds of the spectators. When the ranking battle started, Qin Wentian was definitely at the 7th level of Yuanfu. There was no doubt about this. He was forced into the cave by Chen Wang, and after he came out he was already at the 8th level of Yuanfu. But when did he step into the 9th level? Not only that, it hadn't been too long since the Heavenly Fate rankings had started, yet Qin Wentian had already broken through 2 levels. Although the geniuses of the Heavenly Fate rankings had all undergone some transformations, Qin Wentian's transformation was still too terrifying. Mo Qingqing and Bai Qing stood together. At this moment, Bai Qing had already removed her long robes, revealing her graceful and beautiful figure. Every time the spectators saw her, they would all sigh in amazement. They didn't dare to believe that such a beautiful woman would actually cultivate such a tyrannical devil art. Wentian Gige is so powerful, he's actually at the 9th level of Yuanfu. He promised that he would defeat Zhan Chen. He would definitely do it. Mo Qingqing had a smile on her face. It seemed like her limit break pellets weren't wasted. As long as Qin Wentian defeated Zhan Chen, her master, Luo He wouldn't obstruct him anymore. Those from the White Deer Institute couldn't help but to exclaim in admiration. Never would they have imagined that Qin Wentian would be able to reach this step. Not only that, he was only a single step away from achieving what they wanted Qin Wentian to do. Although Zhan Chen had a terrifying secret art, would Qin Wentian, who was at the 9th level of Yuanfu, be defeated? For some reason, although Qin Wentian was facing Zhan Chen, no one was optimistic about Zhan Chen's chances. Everyone's confidence was all placed on Qin Wentian. Naturally, they had reason to believe in Qin Wentian. When Qin Wentian was at the 8th level of Yuanfu, he was able to conceal his true strength. This indicated that he had been suppressing his own strength in the earlier battles. Now that he had broken through to the next level, all the power he could erupt with would be amplified. This was a power that was completely under his control. It wasn't a secret technique. Zhan Chen, what do you have to fight me? Qin Wentian's voice was ice cold as he lunged toward Zhan Chen. When you were at the peak of Yuanfu, I was only at the low level of Yuanfu. You aren't even qualified to stand with me on the arena platform. Zhan Chen's countenance stiffened as he stared at Qin Wentian. How did he do it? He actually broke through to the 9th level of Yuanfu? This caused Zhan Chen to feel an immense pressure bearing down on him. If he was defeated by Qin Wentian, what glory would he have left? His goal was to slay Qin Wentian on the Heavenly Fate ranking platform. Chen Wang didn't understand. He remembered that Qin Wentian's cultivation base was at the 7th level of Yuanfu. When did you step into the 9th level of Yuanfu? Chen Wang coldly asked. Qin Wentian swept a glance at him. The coldness in his eyes was as cold as ever. I have to thank you for hunting me down. If not, I wouldn't have been able to step into the 9th level so quickly. Chen Wang had chased Qin Wentian within the Vermilion Bird Formation grounds, forcing him into the cave. After which, Huafeng, Situpa, and Yang Fan waited for him outside the cave, humiliating him and even insulting Mo Qingqing. Qin Wentian's rage towered to the heavens, and in a fit of rage, he was prepared to consume the limit break pellet. At that time, his Yuanfu started to rumble, showing signs of breaking through on its own. Hence Qin Wentian endured it. He didn't consume the limit break pellet at that time, relying on his own strength to break through to the 8th level of Yuanfu. After which, He impatiently barged into the cave and slaughtered Orphan and the rest in the most tyrannical manner possible. As for how he broke through to the 9th level of Yuanfu, it was because he had entered the cave of the demonic divinity sacrificial transformation, and had also consumed the limit break pellet. Qin Wentian didn't reply to Chen Wang's question. He stared at him for a moment before coldly replying, "Let's hope that you, the top ranker of the heavenly fate rankings, will be able to last until the end. If not, you will lose face in front of the entire Grand Xia. Do you really think that just because you've broken through to the 9th level of Yuanfu, you have the qualifications to contend against me?" Disdain flickered in Chen Wang's eyes. How could Qin Wentian's breakthrough in cultivation be able to shake his position? "Let's finish the battle with Zhangchen first. You can fantasize about it later. To me, it doesn't matter if you hide your cultivation or not." Chen Wang, who was standing beside Qin Wentian, slowly spoke as he walked down the arena platform. He needed to recover his strength. Earlier, he had paid a heavy price to defeat Xiqiang. Currently, the astral energy in his body was almost completely depleted. Xiqiang flicked his sleeves as he similarly walked down the arena platform. In the blink of an eye, only 2 people remained on the arena platform: Zhangchen, Qin Wentian. Would this battle be the final battle for the heavenly fate rankings? As long as Zhangchen won, the ranking battle would be over. Before Qin Wentian revealed his strength at the 9th level of Yuanfu, the spectators initially thought that this would be the final battle. But now, they couldn't help but be filled with anticipation. Maybe, the heavenly fate rankings would continue. "I've already thought of a way to survive. Why haven't I acted yet?" Qin Wentian stared at Zhangchen. Earlier, Zhangchen's arrogant words made Qin Wentian think carefully about how he should survive the upcoming battles. Zhangchen's body was clad in a golden armor. His lips trembled as he closed his eyes, summoning the will of the ancient. Busy. A raging wind gusted as a pair of wings unfurled on Qin Wentian's back. His silhouette abruptly vanished, and with a speed akin to lightning, he instantly appeared in front of Zhangchen. With a single palm strike, the entire space trembled as the roar of a dragon shook the heavens and earth. Zhangchen abruptly opened his eyes as he slashed out with his sword. However, under the terrifying might of Qin Wentian's attack, his sword was completely destroyed. Boom! An immense force slammed into Zhangchen, causing him to be flung through the air. His countenance paled as he coughed out fresh blood. Strength. This was an absolute suppression of strength. With his cultivation base at the 9th level of Yuanfu, Qin Wentian's astral energy was condensed into an attack. In addition to his mandate of force and mandate of demons, the power of his attack was unimaginable. Just a single strike had caused Zhangchen to spit out blood. "You." Zhangchen floated in the air, his sharp eyes staring at Qin Wentian, his countenance ashen. "Don't tell me you think that I should just stand here and wait for you to use your secret art before we fight?" An intense killing intent flickered in Qin Wentian's eyes, piercing through Zhangchen's own. "This battle is a battle of life and death." As the sound of his voice faded, his silhouette vanished once again. The third eye in the center of his brows swept past Zhangchen as a terrifying will of mandate gushed forth. The golden light radiating from Zhangchen's body grew even more intense as a ruthless light flickered in his eyes. At the instant he closed his eyes, a surge of energy that didn't belong to him pulsed within him. "No matter what secret art you have, you won't have the chance to use it anymore." A voice directly penetrated into Zhangchen's mind. At this moment, Zhangchen could already see Qin Wentian's tyrannical palm strike gushing towards him. Lifting his hands, he slashed out with his sword. However, Qin Wentian transformed into a myriad of illusory images that attacked him. Zhangchen's sword slashed out in a frenzy as the aura emanating from him grew increasingly terrifying. But at this moment, not many people were paying attention to Zhangchen. They were all staring at Qin Wentian. Because Zhangchen's sword slashed out in a haphazard manner, while Qin Wentian quietly stood in the air, his eyes gleaming with a hint of playfulness. This caused the spectators to be filled with disbelief. Was this really a battle between Zhangchen and Qin Wentian? Why was there such a dramatic turn of events? If one's heart is in chaos, how can one's will be so firm? How can one differentiate between reality and illusion? Qin Wentian mumbled. Zhang Chen's strength wasn't so weak, but fear had already filled his heart. Hence, when Qin Wentian unleashed his second-level Mandate of Dreams, the Mandate of Dream Will, Zhang Chen naturally believed it to be real, unable to differentiate between reality and illusion. This was similar to the time when he fought against Sherpatian. He used his speed to unleash frenzied attacks, but in the end, Sherpatian was enraged and frustrated. After that, Qin Wentian didn't attack, only unleashing his will. Yet, what he saw was still a sky full of attacks. The Mandate of Dreams was even more tyrannical compared to the Mandate of Illusions. It could cause one to sink into a dreamscape, unable to extricate themselves. A raging wind gusted by as Qin Wentian's silhouette vanished once again. Zhang Chen's sword slashed down, but in that instant he seemed to have sensed something. A terrifying light flashed in his eyes as he stared at Qin Wentian. "Your life, I'll take it." A cold voice rang out. Qin Wentian violently blasted out with a palm strike, causing the entire space to tremble violently. The spectators froze, only to hear a deafening rumble as an incomparably violent force destroyed everything in its path. Zhang Chen's body was destroyed, and his head exploded. Qin Wentian, in the most tyrannical manner possible, killed Zhang Chen. Just like what he said, Zhang Chen's life was taken by him. In the Heavenly Fate Rankings battle, the Heavens Chosen of the Pill Emperor Hall, Zhang Chen, died in the hands of Qin Wentian. Such a scene was too shocking to the spectators, causing their hearts to be unable to calm down. In the air, at the place where Zhang Chen died, a golden orb could be seen flickering with a strange light. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with a cold light as he grabbed out with his palms, causing a terrifying energy to envelop the orb. Busy. An intense struggle erupted forth from the golden orb, causing Qin Wentian to snort. This should be the reason why Zhang Chen was acting strangely. Back then, the gold element ancient scroll he had tossed away wasn't anything good. Extinguish. Qin Wentian's finger landed, as a scream of agony rang out in the air. Instantly, the golden orb was destroyed, vanishing without a trace. The expressions of the spectators froze as they witnessed this scene. Even the experts in the hallway narrowed their eyes. That golden orb seemed to have a life of its own, and Qin Wentian didn't hesitate at all, directly destroying it with a single finger. Qin Wentian's decisiveness was terrifying, just like when he killed Zhang Chen. He didn't hesitate at all. He had a grudge with Zhang Chen, and if he wanted Zhang Chen to die, he wouldn't hesitate at all. He only knew that Zhang Chen had to die. Hence he killed him. Chapter 388. Zhang Chen had fallen. The fourth position on the Heavenly Fate rankings was now vacant. After the ranking battle concluded, the fourth position would be filled up again. And after this battle, Qin Wentian would officially become one of the top 3 rankers. As for his final ranking, it had yet to be determined. Bailu Yi and Bailu Jing all had smiles on their faces. Even the large-eyed elder from the White Deer Institute was smiling. Staring at the silhouette on the arena platform, he commented in a low voice, "This little brat actually managed to achieve such a feat in the ranking battle of the Heavenly Fate rankings, becoming one of the top 3 rankers. With such talent, his future achievements will be limitless." However, as the large-eyed elder spoke, traces of worry could be seen flickering in his eyes. Zhang Chen wasn't an ordinary character. He was a Heavens Chosen from the Pill Emperor Hall. And in this ranking battle, Qin Wentian had already killed many Heavens Chosen from the Transcendent Powers. He had offended too many people, and this made the large-eyed elder worry for Qin Wentian. Even if Qin Wentian became the top ranker in the Heavenly Fate rankings, he had already formed a grudge with the Transcendent Powers. These people would only wish for Qin Wentian's death. Geniuses had to be strangled in the cradle. I wonder if it's a blessing or a curse for him to be so arrogant. Bailu Yi's father also sighed. This should be the nature of one's heart. Those who reached the pinnacle of the ancient times would never suppress their emotions. They would dare to love and hate. Their will was strong, their state of mind clear, and they wouldn't have any knots in their hearts. Even if they had to fight against the entire world, they had to follow their heart. Didn't the Azure Emperor also do the same back then? But what a pity. It was all because of this that he fell. The large-eyed elder spoke in a low voice. In this world, there were two types of people who could achieve greatness. The first type was like Qin Wentian and the Azure Emperor, showing off their sharpness, not suppressing their true heart, doing as they pleased. The other type was able to endure what others couldn't. They could disguise themselves to the extreme, like a gentleman, but in the dark, they were a devil that killed people like scything flax. Such a person's temperament was similarly terrifying, low profile, and deep. But ultimately, it all came down to one's heart. If one's heart was strong enough, nothing would be able to shake it. Mo Qingqing stood on the stone platform with a smile on her face. Her white robes fluttered in the wind, her beauty capable of toppling empires. She stared at the silhouette of Qin Wentian on the arena platform, feeling pride for him. Along the way, he had experienced too many things. For her, he killed Hua Xiaoyan, and now he defeated Zhang Qin, fulfilling his promise to her. There were simply too many people who were shocked and astonished as they stared at the silhouette on the arena platform. Behind him, the purgatory vermilion bird floated in the air, exuding a terrifying baleful light. It had devoured Zhang Qin's vermilion bird spirit, and it was like its master, Qin Wentian, wanting to sweep away everything in its path. Qin Wentian slowly turned his gaze to Xiqiong and Chen Wang. Chen Wang also opened his eyes and looked at Yi Futian. Their gazes met, and terrifying sharpness clashed in the air. There's one more battle, and I'll be standing in front of you. I hope that you can still hold on to your so-called number one position. Qin Wentian slowly spoke. After defeating Zhang Qin, he would fight against Xiqiong. If he lost, he would be ranked number 3. But if he defeated Xiqiong, he would stand at the pinnacle of the heavenly fate rankings and face off against Chen Wang. Qin Wentian was the same as Chen Wang. He had absolute confidence in himself. It was as though Xiqiong would become his stepping stone. His words completely disregarded Xiqiong's existence. There were some who felt that Qin Wentian was arrogant. But regardless of Chen Wang, Xiqiong, the defeated Sherpatian, or the dead Zhang Qin, who wasn't arrogant? If they didn't even have confidence in their own strength, how could they defeat them? That was a kind of conviction. A conviction that would allow one to press forward with indomitable will. Xiqiong's eyes gleamed with sharpness as he stared at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian was brazen. Speaking to Chen Wang in such a manner was undoubtedly disregarding his existence. He, Xiqiong, came to Grand Xia to participate in the heavenly fate rankings with the intention of obtaining the number 1 position. Yet he was defeated by Chen Wang. He could only accept it. Chen Wang had stayed at the heavenly fate realm for a longer period of time than him, but against Qin Wentian, how could he lose a second battle? Although Qin Wentian had been concealing his true cultivation base, it was clear that he hadn't stayed at the heavenly fate realm for too long. If he were to lose again, he wouldn't be able to accept it. I'll give you all a day to rest. The next battle shall be between Qin Wentian and Xiqiong. Old man Tianji slowly spoke, causing the gazes of the crowd to turn to the wise and far-sighted silhouette. Could it be that old man Tianji had the foresight to arrange the battle between Chen Wang and Xiqiong? Could it be that he had foreseen something? Back then when old man Tianji had arranged for Chen Wang to fight against Xiqiong, the majority of the spectators had thought that it would be a decisive battle. But now their assumptions had been overturned. Old man Tianji is able to pry into astral fate. Even if Qin Wentian concealed his cultivation base, the fluctuations of astral energy in his body shouldn't be able to fool old man Tianji. Old man Tianji should have already known that Qin Wentian had broken through to the 9th level of Yuanfu. The hearts of the spectators mused. For those with unique astral souls, or those who were proficient in sensing the fluctuations of astral energy, they would be able to tell the cultivation base of others with a single glance. Old man Tianji definitely had such an ability. He had long known that Zhang Qin would lose to Qin Wentian. In that case, did old man Tianji also believe that Qin Wentian would be able to defeat Xiqiong? If not, if Xiqiong won, the final battle would have been brought forward. Qin Wentian returned to the stone platform. Bai Qing's body was much better after consuming the medicinal pellet. She pulled on his arm as she smiled. Wentian Gij, you're already in the top 3. You're also in the top 5, and you were the one who gave up. Qin Wentian rubbed Bai Qing's head, causing Bai Qing to slap his arm away. Glaring at him, she stated, "Wentian Gij, I'm no longer a little girl." Qin Wentian laughed as he stared at the mischievous look on Bai Qing's face. Back then, this little lass had indeed grown up. She was even more beautiful than her elder sister, and her figure was even better. "In my eyes, there's no difference." Qin Wentian laughed as he pinched her cheeks, causing Bai Qing to hatefully glare at him. This fellow had always liked to do this when they were young. Even now, he still loved to rub other people's heads and pinch their cheeks. How detestable. Humph. Bai Qing's lips twitched, yet she was feeling extremely happy in her heart. Such a feeling was so good. It was as though she had returned to that innocent and pure era, where she had no worries, sitting together with her Wentian Gij and chatting, not knowing what worries were. Now she had finally returned to the past. "It's about time for you to recover your astral energy." Mo Qingqing tugged on Qin Wentian's arm. Qin Wentian looked at Mo Qingqing as he nodded his head. "The earlier battle didn't consume too much of my energy. This time around, old man Tianji gave me a day's worth of rest. It's more than enough." "Don't worry, I know what you're thinking. I will take good care of myself." Qin Wentian tugged on Mo Qingqing's hand, exerting a slight amount of force. The two of them smiled at each other. Mo Qingqing wasn't thinking about whether Qin Wentian would be able to obtain the top ranker on the Heavenly Fate rankings, but rather his safety. Qin Wentian sat cross-legged as Yuan meteor stones appeared in his hands. During this period of time, his consumption of Yuan meteor stones was extremely high. The amount of Yuan meteor stones he had on him was almost depleted. On the path of cultivation, the higher one's cultivation, the more resources they would need. After a short period of time, Qin Wentian replenished the astral energy in his Yuanfu. At the same time, he condensed some divine energy in preparation for battle. However, Qin Wentian didn't immediately open his eyes. Recently, there were many things happening around him that gave him a strange feeling. He wanted to connect the dots, yet he had no way to do so. For example, Yinmingyi. Who was she? Was she really Princess Tianyu? And why did his biological father come to Granxia back then, bringing away a woman? Was that woman Yunmingyi? If that was the case, Yunmingyi shouldn't be so young. If he wanted to find out, the only way was to unravel the memories of his father. As he thought of this, Qin Wentian's attention landed on the tiny astral being in his sea of consciousness. Once again, he arrived at the boundless starry space. There were simply too many astral fragments here. Each and every one of them was a memory fragment. These few years he had read many memory fragments, and would often see the silhouette of that middle-aged man. He had already gradually accepted the possibility that the middle-aged man was his biological father. These memory fragments were all trivial matters that happened when his father was still alive. One memory fragment after another was opened by Qin Wentian. He wanted to find the memories of his father back then in Granxia. After a long period of time, Qin Wentian's will retracted as he began to absorb the memory fragments. Within these memory fragments, he saw an elegant courtyard. The middle-aged man was sitting cross-legged there, cultivating. Above the sky, resplendent astral light cascaded down, landing on him. This courtyard seemed to be shrouded in a constellation, incomparably resplendent. How powerful! Qin Wentian couldn't help but to exclaim in admiration. However, at this moment, the middle-aged man coughed a few times as the constellation vanished. He coughed out a mouthful of black-colored blood as his countenance paled, as though he had suffered heavy injuries. Staring at the heavens, the middle-aged man's eyes flickered with a sense of melancholy, but soon after, they turned resolute. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his gaze akin to a terrifying sharp sword piercing through the clouds, as though wanting to tear apart the heavens. Just by casually standing there, he exuded a terrifying aura. Behind the middle-aged man, a silhouette slowly walked over. Staring at the back of the middle-aged man, he saw that the middle-aged man was kneeling on the ground, unmoving. The middle-aged man turned his head and walked over, helping the middle-aged man up as he ruthlessly patted the middle-aged man's shoulder, as though they were old friends that hadn't seen each other for a very long time. However, the middle-aged man's eyes were filled with respect. It's him. At the instant he saw this silhouette, Great waves of shock rose in Qin Wentian's heart. Everything that happened on the heavenly steel steps wasn't a coincidence. It was a test for him. Beside him, a silhouette appeared. It was none other than the young woman who bore a striking resemblance to Yunmingyi. And at this moment, the fragmented memories vanished without a trace. It was as though this was the end of the fragmented memories. Qin Wentian opened his eyes as a terrifying sharpness flickered within. Abruptly shifting his gaze over, Qin Wentian saw the silhouette of a young woman walking in his direction. This young woman was none other than Yunmingyi. Yunmingyi glanced at Mo Qingqing, feeling a sense of awe in her heart. No wonder Qin Wentian wasn't bewitched by her back then. So it turned out that he had such a beautiful lover. I have some words I wish to speak with him alone. Yunmingyi spoke in a light voice. Mo Qingqing cast a glance at Qin Wentian before lightly nodding her head, pulling Bai Qing along as they walked away. Who are you exactly? Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness as he asked. I've told you before, it's up to you whether you want to believe me or not. Now, I'm going to impart a set of oracular chant to you. Yunmingyi spoke to Qin Wentian. Take out 3 sides of the divine steel and chant the oracular chant. You will be able to summon the ancient will of the heavenly steel and combine the 9 sides into one. With that, you will be able to wield the 9 ultimate arts of Wuxia. However, you have to think this through. The other 6 sides are still in the hands of the 6 transcendent powers of the 7 great clans. Chapter 389. When Qin Wentian heard Yunmingyi whispering in his ears, his heart involuntarily trembled. She had actually grasped the oracular chant to summon the heavenly steel. Could it be that what she said was true? That she was Princess Tianyu of Wuxia? A low voice drifted into Qin Wentian's ears. Yunmingyi's lips moved as a cryptic incantation floated into Qin Wentian's mind. Such a scene was extremely intimate, causing the 2 beauties not far away to glare at them. Sister Qingqing, how can you not be jealous? Bai Qing mischievously spoke, as though she was trying to sow discord between them. Mo Qingqing glared at Qin Wentian and Yunmingyi with hidden bitterness, causing the hearts of those who looked at her to ache. I can't endure it. Bai Qing smiled. Mo Qingqing stared at her as she laughed. Qing lass, go ahead and rejoice in my misfortune. The gazes of many in the crowd shifted over. Many of them were filled with envy for Qin Wentian. Not only was his talent outstanding, he was also surrounded by beauties. What was even more terrifying was that these beauties weren't simple at all. Mo Qingqing, the #1 beauty in the Moon Continent, the heavens chosen of the Pill Emperor Hall, and Qin Wentian's lover. Bai Qing, for the sake of Qin Wentian, was willing to endure a palm strike from him, even disregarding her own life. From this, one could see how deep her feelings for Qin Wentian were. Not only that, she was also a heavens chosen from the mystic Moon Hall. Yunmingyi, similarly, was ranked within the top 10 of the heavenly fate rankings. These 3 beauties could be said to be the most dazzling and outstanding ones in the heavenly fate rankings, and all 3 of them actually had a connection with Qin Wentian. How could the crowd not be envious? There's another secret I want to tell you. It's about the purgatory vermilion bird above your head. After Yunmingyi finished imparting the incantation, she continued speaking to Qin Wentian. You are the first person to enter the vermilion bird formation. The spirit of the vermilion bird formation bestowed upon you the purgatory vermilion bird. As you grow stronger, the purgatory vermilion bird will also grow stronger, gaining sentience. Hence, the purgatory vermilion bird will unceasingly devour the ancient luck of others until the very end. It will be able to summon the true spirit of the vermilion bird formation. This is the benefit of being the first to enter the formation. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness. Yunmingyi actually knew so much? Even if she wasn't Princess Tianyu, there was no doubt that she was related to the ancient kingdom. This caused Qin Wentian to gradually believe in her. The vermilion bird formation was a formation that even the transcendent powers had no way to see through. It was the #1 training ground for Yuanfu cultivators in Wuxia. Yet Yunmingyi actually knew of its secrets. Before this, everyone only wanted to be the first to enter the formation, but they didn't know the secrets within. You've obtained the first position, and your efforts weren't in vain. Your vermilion bird spirit is connected to your heart and soul. If you want it to die, it will do so without hesitation. After speaking, Yunmingyi turned and departed. An expression of contemplation appeared on Qin Wentian's face as he stared at her departing back. After which he inclined his head and stared at the purgatory vermilion bird in the air. The body of the purgatory vermilion bird grew even larger, exuding a terrifying aura. A strand of will appeared in Qin Wentian's heart, and momentarily, the purgatory vermilion bird seemed to understand his intentions. It slowly landed in front of him and rubbed its head against his body. You're already a life form. How about becoming my companion in the future? Qin Wentian sighed. The vermilion bird's spirit was already a spiritual body. It already possessed life. The purgatory vermilion bird was incomparably excited when it heard Qin Wentian's words. After which, it soared into the air, circling above Qin Wentian's head as it let out a few cries of excitement. After which, it returned to Qin Wentian's embrace, appearing exceptionally quiet. Qin Wentian gently stroked the feathers of the purgatory vermilion bird as a gentle smile appeared on his face. Inclining his head, he smiled radiantly at Mo Qingqing and Bai Qing as they walked over. At this moment, the demonic young man was filled with a sense of tranquility. His smile was sincere and radiant, completely different from the demonic and violent demonic aura he had displayed on the arena platform. It's about to begin. Mo Qingqing sat beside Qin Wentian, swinging her legs as she leaned against Qin Wentian's arm. In her heart, a faint trace of worry could be seen. Would Qin Wentian be able to retreat unscathed from the ranking battle? She could only hope that nothing bad would happen to him. It's about to begin. Qin Wentian spoke in a light voice. The two of them leaned against each other. This scene was like a scene straight out of a painting, causing people to not be able to bear to disturb them. Over the horizon, the sun gradually set. Rainbow-colored clouds floated in the air, creating a dazzling scene. How beautiful! Mo Qingqing murmured. Just like the winter snow, beautiful and warm. Qin Wentian's face was filled with a gentle smile. The two of them were like an immortal couple. Qin Wentian. A voice drifted over. Xiqiong's silhouette appeared on the arena platform. His gaze was filled with coldness as he stared at Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing. Qin Wentian dared to disregard him, arrogantly declaring that he would face Qinhuang head-on? Where did this place him, Xiqiong, stand? The spectators stared at Xiqiong. They could feel the intense battle intent radiating from him. Were the two dark horses about to clash? Before this, Xiqiong had always been regarded as the strongest dark horse. But now Qin Wentian had slain Zhanqin, challenging him to a duel. Next, the two most dazzling dark horses in the Heavenly Fate rankings would face off against each other. Who would be the strongest dark horse? Qin Wentian slowly stood up, smiling at Mo Qingqing. After which, he turned and walked out, instantly appearing on the arena platform. Above his head, the purgatory vermilion bird let out a shrill cry as a baleful light shot towards Xiqiong and the vermilion bird behind him, exuding a tyrannical aura. Your vermilion bird ancient luck seems to be afraid. Qin Wentian casually stood there. The current him gave off a different feeling. As though the moment this delicate-looking young man erupted with power, he would be extremely terrifying. It's just ancient luck, it's not that important. But since you rejected the exchange, I really want to see what's in your memories. Xiqiong coldly spoke. He was proficient in soul attacks, and one of his soul attacks was the soul search art. The first time he used it was against Mu Feng, but he failed and was poisoned. This time around he wanted to search Qin Wentian's soul. In that case, let's fight. Qin Wentian faintly spoke. At this instant, a light breeze drifted past, fluttering the robes of the two of them. The entire space was incomparably silent. This was the battle for the position of the strongest dark horse. If Xiqiong won, he would be ranked number 2. If Qin Wentian won, he would fight against Qinhuang for the position of the top ranker. Qin Wentian stretched out his palms as demonic qi enveloped them. His arms transformed into the arms of a Kirin, glowing with a crimson light as a terrifying roar echoed out. After stepping into the 9th level of Yuanfu, how strong would Qin Wentian be? Even Qin Wentian himself didn't know. He hadn't unleashed his full strength yet. Fiend Transformation Art, second level Mandate of Demons, second level Mandate of Force, stacking the power of his primordial demonic bloodline, in addition to the divine energy in his body as well as the amplification from his astral souls. What level would his strength reach? Even he himself didn't know. Kacha! A crisp sound rang out as the divine energy in Qin Wentian's Yuanfu started to tremble violently. Although he was still standing there, he gave off a feeling of strength. A demonic wind gusted as a pair of demonic wings appeared on Qin Wentian's back. With the Fiend Transformation Art, he could condense demonic wings with just a single thought. Si Qiong felt the pressure as his astral souls erupted forth. His first astral soul was a wind-type astral soul, his second was a coiling water python, and his third was an evil soul. Not only that, based on the luster of his 3 astral souls, it was clear that they originated from the 4th heavenly layer, 4th heavenly layer and 5th heavenly layer respectively. How terrifying! The hearts of the spectators trembled. In terms of astral souls, there weren't many who could be compared to Si Qiong. You want to defeat me? Have you ever seen such an astral soul before? Si Qiong's lips moved again as a soul-sucking melody permeated the air, unceasingly seeping into Qin Wentian's ears. If one's soul was shaken, how could one fight? His evil soul stared at Qin Wentian, wanting to affect Qin Wentian's soul as well. Boom! In the center of Qin Wentian's brows, a third eye opened as a resplendent light flashed. His third astral soul was unleashed. It was the demon sovereign astral soul. At the instant his astral soul was released, a terrifying golden light circulated, causing the hearts of the spectators to tremble. As expected of the number 1 ranked demon sovereign astral soul in the Warbeast Index. The hearts of the spectators trembled. They had personally witnessed Qin Wentian unleashing his demon sovereign astral soul within the Vermilion Bird formation, 5th heavenly layer. Si Qiong furrowed his brows. But so what of it? For the top rankers on the Heavenly Fate rankings, their 3rd astral souls originated from the 5th heavenly layer. Boom! Qin Wentian took another step forward as he released his Great Dreams astral soul. A resplendent light flashed in the eyes of the spectators, causing their hearts to tremble. 5th heavenly layer. Qin Wentian's 2nd astral soul was also condensed from the 5th heavenly layer, causing Si Qiong to feel drowsy. If it wasn't for his strong will, ordinary Yuanfu cultivators would have already fallen asleep under the pressure of this domain, allowing themselves to be trampled upon. What a terrifying astral soul! How strong is his perception? The hearts of the spectators trembled. Qin Wentian's 2nd astral soul was already from the 5th heavenly layer. Frog at the bottom of a well. Qin Wentian spat out, causing Si Qiong's countenance to turn incredibly unsightly. As the sound of his voice faded, he was ruthlessly slapped across the face by Qin Wentian. Let me show you what an astral soul is. Qin Wentian took another step forward as his first astral soul, the Heavenly Hammer astral soul, appeared. The light it emitted caused the hearts of the spectators to palpitate uncontrollably. 3 astral souls from the 5th heavenly layer. What concept was this? Ever since Qin Wentian stepped onto the path of cultivation, he was already able to condense an astral soul from the 5th heavenly layer? How was this possible? How could he, Qin Wentian, accomplish this? Bai Qingsong and Autumn Snow, who were in the crowd, were also stunned. So it turned out that when Qin Wentian showed them his 3rd astral soul, it was because he didn't want it to be too shocking. Have you seen it before? Qin Wentian spat out a single word. Si Qiong only felt that this slap was extremely resounding. However, at this moment, Qin Wentian's silhouette disappeared. Pung! At the instant Qin Wentian moved, Si Qiong executed stellar transposition and fled. However, he only saw Qin Wentian instantly changing directions. Like a bolt of lightning, he stabbed out with a single finger. Instantly, a terrifying storm of demonic qi engulfed the entire space, completely enveloping it. As the finger descended, everything in the air transformed into demonic sword light, descending upon Si Qiong with terrifying speed. The entire space seemed to be on the verge of collapsing, transforming into a black hole made of swords. The energy of the entire heavens and earth were all sucked into the black hole. Although it seemed slow, it only took an instant for the sword light to reach Xiqiong. Xiqiong's countenance turned pale. His attack, defense, and speed were all extremely terrifying. For his soul attacks, he had the water armor for defense. However, in terms of strength he was still lacking. This was also the reason why he was defeated by Chen Wang. And at this moment, Qin Wentian didn't make a move. But when he did, it was earth-shattering. With a single finger, the black hole formed of swords pierced towards Xiqiong's heart. No matter how fast Xiqiong's speed was, no matter how strong his soul attacks were, no matter how powerful his water armor was, there was no way he could defend against this terrifying attack. Maybe Chen Wang could use his most violent attacks to counter it, but Xiqiong couldn't. Boom. A resplendent stream of light flashed as Xiqiong's body was clad in a water screen armor. This armor was formless, akin to water that draped over his body. The sword light from the black hole landed on Xiqiong's body, causing him to be flung through the air. The purgatory vermilion bird had devoured his ancient luck. Xiqiong actually broke the rules and used a divine weapon. That divine weapon is formless and formless. Xiqiong must have come from a terrifying power, using it to protect his life at the critical moment. Seeing Xiqiong's body being blasted off the platform, Qin Wentian's countenance was calm as he glanced at him. A hint of mockery could be heard in his voice. Can't even withstand a single strike, using a divine weapon to protect his life. How pitiful. However, Qin Wentian understood that given Xiqiong's background, even if he broke the rules, Old Man Tianji and the rest wouldn't dare to do anything to him. Hence, Qin Wentian no longer looked at Xiqiong. He shifted his gaze onto Chen Wang. His eyes were like sharp swords, piercing through space, landing on Chen Wang. It's your turn. Chapter 390. It's your turn now. A calm voice resounded through the air. Qin Wentian was as indifferent as ever, as though his victory over Xiqiong wasn't even worth mentioning. He didn't even treat Xiqiong as his opponent. Qin Wentian, the strongest dark horse, had finally reached the end and issued a challenge to Chen Wang. Only then would he be able to challenge the highest ranker on the heavenly fate rankings. Resplendent astral souls, a dazzling purgatory vermilion bird, and a demonic silhouette. At this moment, the feeling Qin Wentian gave off was akin to a monarch descending from the heavens. Although he was still young, he already exuded an imposing aura. He casually stood there, as though he was looking down on all living things. Even someone as powerful as Xiqiong couldn't even withstand a single strike. With just a single strike, he was blasted off the stage, using his divine weapon to preserve his life. At this moment, Xiqiong's countenance was incomparably unsightly, alternating between shades of green and purple. The divine weapon on his body gradually vanished, transforming back into nothingness. He came to participate in the heavenly fate rankings because he wanted to obtain the secret art of Grand Xia. While he was at it, he also wanted to seize the top ranker position. Yet in the end, he was only ranked third. What was even more lamentable was that his final battle on the heavenly fate rankings was the most humiliating battle of his entire life. A single strike, only a single strike. He had broken the rules. Yet Qin Wentian couldn't even be bothered to glance at him. He only calmly spoke. Couldn't even withstand a single strike, using his divine weapon to preserve his life? How lamentable. How lamentable. He, Xiqiong, had never suffered such humiliation before. Nobody looked at him again. Although he had broken the rules and should have been punished, nobody cared about it now. In this battle platform, the winner was always the king, and the loser was the villain. No matter how dazzling your performance was, there was only one person who would be remembered by the countless spectators. That person was the top ranker. Glancing left and right, Xiqiong couldn't see many gazes on him. Even if there were, they were filled with pity. He had lost too miserably in this battle, too humiliating. He even wanted to roar and rage and fight again. Yet all he could do was silently descend to the ground, staring at the silhouette that issued the final challenge to Chen Wang. Chen Wang inclined his head, staring at the silhouette on the arena platform. When he saw Qin Wentian exploding forth with a single strike against Xiqiong, Chen Wang finally felt the threat. That silhouette on the arena platform had the strength to fight against him. Qin Wentian's 3 astral souls were all so dazzling that even he had no choice but to admit that in the entire Grand Xia, he had never seen a second astral soul like Qin Wentian. 3 astral souls from the 5th heavenly layer. Qin Wentian had completely toppled the understanding of the crowd. Although the figures in the void corridor appeared calm, they were extremely shocked in their hearts. From the start of the heavenly fate rankings, that inconspicuous young man had now become the most dazzling existence. In terms of talent, there was no doubt that he had already surpassed Chen Wang. Even if he was defeated, the spectators couldn't help but admit that Chen Wang's talent was still a far cry from Qin Wentian's. What kind of monster did you meet? Bai Lujing drew in a deep breath. He didn't know how to describe Qin Wentian. Maybe he could only use the word monster to describe him. How could she have known that Qin Wentian would be able to achieve such a feat? He was only 20 years of age, yet he was already standing at the peak of the heavenly fate rankings. Who would have thought that? Even the White Deer Institute didn't dare to imagine this. What was even more shocking was that Qin Wentian's attainments in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions were already at the level of a 4th-ranked Grandmaster, and that was before he was 19 years old. Those from the Ouyang aristocrat clan were all stunned. Yet they only saw an expression of excitement on Ouyang Guangxing's face. This bastard truly caused them to be speechless, giving them such a huge surprise. However, this was truly exciting enough. Ouyang Ting was completely dumbfounded. She didn't dare to believe that what she was seeing was real. Bai Fei from the Pill Emperor Hall also had the same feeling as Ouyang Ting. Bai Fei had always been secretly in love with Zhang Chen. She had always been secretly in love with that Heaven's Chosen from the Pill Emperor Hall. However, he had died in Qin Wentian's hands. This young man whom she had once humiliated and disdained, his radiance had long surpassed that of Zhang Chen. Staring at the 3 astral souls, as well as the fact that Qin Wentian issued a challenge to Chen Wang, Bai Fei didn't know why, but she couldn't bring herself to hate Qin Wentian at all. Maybe it was because she truly felt that she and Qin Wentian weren't people from the same world. They weren't even on the same level. She was merely a jackdaw, while Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing were the 2 phoenixes. She couldn't help but sigh. The changes in the world were too fast. Not even 5 years had passed, yet the heavens and earth had been turned upside down. A young man and woman from a small country had already appeared before the eyes of the people of Grand Xia, dominating the heavenly fate rankings. The once proud and arrogant Bai Fei, in front of them, seemed so tiny and insignificant. Xu Huanyu was also staring at Qin Wentian in the air. She couldn't help but to feel a sense of absurdity. Back then when Qin Wentian kidnapped her, what would happen if something happened between the 2 of them? Xu Huanyu cursed herself silently. Yet she knew that the shock brought to her by this young man would forever be imprinted in her mind. Because once upon a time, she had been abducted by this man. And it was precisely because of this memory that she couldn't remember, that she could feel the impact of it even more. Chen Wang's silhouette finally stepped onto the Vermilion Bird Arena platform, walking in front of Qin Wentian. In the vast space, not a single sound could be heard. This battle would be the final showdown. It would determine who would be the first ranker on the Heavenly Fate rankings. Who would stand at the peak? They had once thought that Chen Wang would be the first ranker for sure. But now, they started to doubt themselves. The impact brought to them by Qin Wentian was too great. Qin Wentian was an unrivaled existence at the same level, but after he revealed his cultivation base at the 9th level of Yuanfu, would Chen Wang be able to stop him? The answer would be revealed in this battle. Chen Wang didn't say anything. The flames on his body erupted forth as the astral light shone resplendently. He actually had 2 fire-type astral souls. The first was a flame incarnation astral soul, while the second was a magma giant astral soul. Both of them were filled with the power of fire, and the third astral soul was a psychedelic shadow astral soul. This psychedelic shadow astral soul allowed him to summon an incarnation as strong as himself for combat. The combination of these 3 astral souls, in addition to Chen Wang's great solar universe art, allowed his combat prowess to reach the pinnacle of Yuanfu. He could even defeat those who had just broken through to Heavenly Dipper. Before this, Chen Wang had always been the one with the strongest attacks. But now, the person standing in front of him actually had the qualifications to challenge him. Qin Wentian's strength was also so overwhelming that it caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. Boom boom. The two magma giants formed by Chen Wang separated from Chen Wang's body, exuding an aura so terrifying that it caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. And at the same time, Qin Wentian stared at the heavens. A resplendent beam of astral light shot down from the heavens, cascading onto him as a gigantic figure descended from the skies. Pung! A raging wind swept across the heavens and earth. The descent of the golden primal ape caused the entire vermilion bird arena platform to tremble violently. It was as though a golden primal ape had descended from the heavens, causing the hearts of the spectators to shudder. Pung, pung, pung. One after another, terrifying ancient demonic beasts descended upon the arena platform. They were all summoned by Qin Wentian. Back then, Qin Wentian had obtained quite a number of demonic beasts from the refinement grounds. From there, he was able to sense their corresponding constellations in the heavens. Hence, Qin Wentian was able to summon them here. Not only that, right now, Qin Wentian's cultivation base was already at the 9th level of Yuanfu. These summoned demonic beasts were all at the pinnacle of Yuanfu, just short of breaking through to Yuanfu. Before this, he had always been able to summon demonic beasts across realms, but this time around, because he had already reached the critical point of his cultivation base, he was unable to do so. However, the summoned demonic beasts were all at the pinnacle of Yuanfu. Each and every one of them was so terrifying that it caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. Chen Wang's clones, as well as the demonic beasts summoned by Qin Wentian, all dashed out, madly clashing against each other. In an instant, the entire arena platform trembled unceasingly. That terrifying collision contained an incomparable amount of power, yet Qin Wentian and Chen Wang still stood opposite each other, staring at each other. In their eyes, there was only their opponent. I really want to see how strong you are. Chen Wang stepped out. His body was like flames, akin to a fiery god of war. As you wish. Qin Wentian calmly replied as he similarly stepped out towards his opponent. Boundless power was contained within his arms. Both of their fists blasted out at the same time. Fiery fists and demonic fists instantly collided together. The flames on Chen Wang's body surged up to Qin Wentian's arms, turning his entire body into a ball of fire. This is still not enough. Qin Wentian stared at his opponent as he calmly spoke. He retracted his fist and punched out once more. Chen Wang did the same as Qin Wentian, punching out with his great solar universe art to the extreme, as well as his will of mandates. Boom boom boom. With Qin Wentian and Chen Wang at the center, terrifying currents of energy flowed around them in a frenzy. On both sides of them, the clones and demonic beasts were also frenziedly clashing against each other. Such a tyrannical style of combat caused the blood of the spectators to boil. Qin Wentian's body was about to transform into a body of flames, while Chen Wang's internal organs felt as though they were about to shatter. The will of their mandates were acting on their bodies. Purring. Another violent collision. Chen Wang was forced back a few steps. His two clones also retreated to his side, fusing together with him. He transformed into a flaming giant, glaring at Qin Wentian as though he wanted to crush Qin Wentian into pieces. Boom. Qin Wentian's physique was also undergoing a transformation. His bloodline frenziedly surged as he unleashed the full might of the fiend transformation art. His physique grew taller and taller, resembling a monarch of the heavens. The two of them rushed towards each other once more. The demonic beast summoned by Qin Wentian also rushed towards Chen Wang. An incomparably gigantic flaming palm slammed towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian didn't use his speed to evade. Instead, he used the most direct method to respond. The ancient imprint in his palms blasted out as the divine energy in his body erupted forth. Pung pung. The heavens and earth trembled as the demonic beasts frenziedly attacked Chen Wang. They didn't evade, but chose to clash head-on. Chen Wang's second level of mandates had already reached the advanced boundary, and he cultivated the Great Solar Universe art. His great solar body seemed to be able to amplify his attacks, causing his strength to be unimaginably strong. However, Qin Wentian's strength was also at the pinnacle of the same level. It was unknown how terrifying his strength was. Rumble. Finally, a deafening sound echoed out as one of Chen Wang's arms exploded. That seemingly invincible flaming giant's arm was actually shattered into pieces. Did this mean that the victor of the Heavenly Fate rankings was about to be decided? All along the way, in a situation where everyone thought it was impossible, he actually managed to turn the tides and stand at the peak of the Heavenly Fate rankings? Everyone felt their blood boiling. That dark horse was unstoppable. Was it the dark horse that had reached the pinnacle of the world? Chapter 391. Chen Wang's gigantic body retreated a step. One of his arms had actually been forcibly destroyed. Qin Wentian's entire body was engulfed in flames. Yet his eyes shone with a bright light, as though he could still persist on. Strength, can you do it? Qin Wentian stared ahead as he stomped his foot forward, causing a thunderous sound to ring out. He still exuded the aura of an unexcelled king, looking down on all living beings. So what if he was facing the great Solar King? At the same cultivation level, his strength was invincible. Chen Wang stared fixedly at Qin Wentian. At the instant Qin Wentian's palm imprint blasted out, Chen Wang stomped on the ground as astral light erupted forth. His silhouette vanished from sight. This was none other than stellar transposition. Although he knew that Qin Wentian's perception was extremely terrifying, and could easily sense the trajectory of stellar transposition, he still didn't hesitate to use it. At that instant, the crowd saw Qin Wentian's silhouette turning around like a phantom, pointing his finger at the empty space. The heaven-breaking finger blasted out once again as a black hole appeared, capable of annihilating everything in its path. Over there, Chen Wang's left palm imprint slammed down from the heavens. The gigantic palm imprint wanted to crush everything into pieces, shattering everything into nothingness. The energy in the air exploded madly. Qin Wentian's left palm slammed out as numerous ancient bells transformed into a straight line, slamming into Chen Wang's flaming body. The sound of the bells lingered in the air. The crowd only saw the collision of their right hands. It was as though the heavens and earth were collapsing. Qin Wentian's left palm strike caused Chen Wang's body to tremble violently. Even though he had transformed into a magma giant and possessed the great solar Dharma body, he was still a human after all. He had a heart. The heartbreak bell, heartbreak. Each and every ancient bell directly slammed into Chen Wang's chest, causing his heart to throb madly and expand. Chen Wang could clearly feel his heart expanding, as though it was about to explode. Bang! Astral light flashed once more as stellar transposition was executed. Chen Wang's silhouette vanished once more, but Qin Wentian also moved. His wings fluttered as he shot towards the edge of the arena platform. The ancient bells in his palms struck out simultaneously, and the chimes of the ancient bells resonated with each other, transforming into an unending stream of sharp blades. Chi! Chen Wang spat out a mouthful of crimson flames, akin to lava. Stepping off the platform once more, his silhouette instantly left the platform. However, Qin Wentian didn't seem to be willing to spare him. He chased after him as the chimes of the ancient bell blasted out in a frenzy. This was decided by Chen Wang and the others. It was hard to say who would die in the Heavenly Fate ranking battle. Chen Wang let out a roar, and his body split into three again. Two lava giants rushed towards Qin Wentian. He himself had used the revolving star transposition once again, and the elemental energy in his body was almost depleted. Bang bang! The two lava giants were smashed into smithereens, while Chen Wang's body finally landed on the ground. This also meant that he had been defeated in the ranking battle this time around. The number 1 ranker had left him. He was still number 2 on the Heavenly Fate ranking. Standing on the ground, Chen Wang inclined his head, only to see Qin Wentian staring down at him from the air. An intense feeling of humiliation permeated the air. He had been defeated by the person who had once looked down on him. Back in the Vermilion Bird Formation grounds, he had even hunted down Qin Wentian, unexcelled in the world. Yet now, he was defeated in a direct confrontation. How cruel was this blow? You number 1? Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with disdain. The Heavenly Fate ranking battle hasn't ended yet. Yet you're already claiming to be number 1 and number 2? Truly an eye-opener. As the sound of his voice faded, Qin Wentian returned to the arena platform. He didn't continue to mock Chen Wang. All words couldn't be compared to his actions. Chen Wang had once claimed to be number 1, as though he already stood at the peak of the heavenly fate ranking. Now that he was defeated by Qin Wentian, it was no different from slapping his own face. If it was anyone else who obtained the second rank, it would be extremely glorious. But how would people evaluate Chen Wang? Hua Taishu didn't participate in the heavenly fate rankings this time around. Chen Wang's position was equivalent to the highest ranker on the heavenly fate rankings, and he had always been aiming for the number 1 position. But in the end, he was defeated by the person he once hunted down in the most tyrannical manner possible. To Chen Wang, this was a great humiliation. He didn't step into Heavenly Dipper because he wanted to participate in the Heavenly Fate ranking. Yet he was still ranked number 2. Winner takes all. Chen Wang had been defeated. Everyone's gazes slowly shifted over, looking at the arena platform. Qin Wentian, when he participated in the ranking battle, he was a nameless nobody with a cultivation base at the 7th level of Yuanfu. In the first round, he obtained the right to participate in the Heavenly Fate ranking battle. He had the most drum beats, a record for this year's ranking battle. In the second round, Yang Fan, Duan Qingshan, and the rest obstructed his path in the life and death river, wanting to force him into the river. Yet instead, he killed Duan Qingshan, a ranker on the Heavenly Fate ranking. In the third round, he surpassed Chen Wang and Sherpa Tian, donning the platinum battle robe, and obtaining the right to be the first to enter the Vermilion Bird formation. Because of this, he offended Chen Wang, and because of this, he forced Qin Wentian to give up his right to be the first to enter, allowing him to enter first. Qin Wentian didn't bother with him. For these 3 rounds, Qin Wentian passed all of them, and his performance was extremely dazzling. But although he attracted the attention of the crowd, no one really thought highly of him. At the very most, they only felt that he had a chance of entering the Heavenly Fate ranking. After which, he stepped into the formation and obtained the Purgatory Vermilion Bird, starting his path of ascension. Step by step, he walked all the way to the peak. The gentle breeze fluttered his robes as the Purgatory Vermilion Bird hovered in the air above his head. This scene caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. This dark horse had truly walked all the way to the end. Nobody could have predicted that Qin Wentian would be the top ranker of the Heavenly Fate rankings. In the air, Old Man Tianji stared at the arena platform. There was no longer a need to doubt the identity of the Demon Star. If he wanted to change the fate of Grand Xia, the only way was for the Demon Star to fall. However, since the Demon Star had already been born, it meant that his fate was already set in stone. It wouldn't be an easy task for him to fall. Today, Qin Wentian would have to face a calamity. But as for the ending of this calamity, even he had no idea. The countenances of those from the Pill Emperor Hall were all extremely complicated. Luohi's eyes were as calm as ever, but waves of shock could be felt in her heart. If it wasn't for the fact that Mo Qingqing was the chosen one, maybe her attitude would be different. The countenances of those from the Hua clan were ice cold. They wanted nothing more than to kill Qin Wentian. Never would they have imagined that Qin Wentian would be ranked first. Those from the Chen clan, Shi clan and Wang clan were all speechless. For the first time, the top ranker of the Heavenly Fate rankings was actually a nameless character. He didn't belong to any of the transcendent powers in Grand Xia. The Ouyang aristocrat clan had some thoughts in their minds. Ouyang Guangxing and Qin Wentian had an extraordinary relationship. If Qin Wentian could grow up well, it wouldn't be too bad for the Ouyang aristocrat clan. Xu Ruanyu, Xian Yan, Xian Xian and the rest were all speechless. Mo Qingqing and Bai Qing only had light smiles on their faces. Chu Mang, Fan Lu and the rest all clenched their fists, feeling pride for him. Bai Lu Jing and Bai Lu Yi, as well as those from the White Deer Institute, all sighed with emotion. They were all anticipating Qin Wentian's extraordinary performance, but when Qin Wentian actually stood at the peak of the Heavenly Fate rankings, they couldn't help but feel a sense of surrealism. They didn't dare to believe it. Mustang's body was trembling from excitement. The muscles on his face twitched, but there was no way to conceal the smile on his face. Teacher, junior brother. He's already standing at the peak of Yuanfu in Granxia. This fellow is only 20 years of age. Yet he's already accomplished things that many would never be able to achieve in their entire lives. Luo Huan's smile was radiant. She was truly moved. The Heavenly Fate rankings, the highest level of glory in Granxia. Tens of millions of geniuses were contending for it, and Qin Wentian had actually obtained the first rank. Mustang stared at Qin Wentian's silhouette as he spoke with pride. Never in my wildest dreams would I have imagined that my disciple would be able to achieve such accomplishments that I didn't even dare to imagine. Master, it's still too early. This fellow is only 20 years old, and we don't know what he'll be like in the future. Don't be too agitated. Luo Huan smiled lightly, but her left hand was trembling slightly, betraying her emotions. She too was incomparably agitated. Ever since she came to Granxia, she was extremely familiar with the names of the transcendent powers. The Pill Emperor Hall, Hua Clan, Ouyang Clan, Great Solarchin Clan. They were all so lofty and unreachable. Some of the heavens chosen among them were legendary characters. But so what? Now, all of them had been defeated by her junior brother. If the people of Chu knew that the Sky Harmony City's Qin Wentian had created such a miracle in Granxia, one could only imagine what they would think in their hearts. Engrave the rankings. Old man Tianji slowly spoke, causing the gazes of the crowd to shift in his direction. The Heavenly Fate rankings floated in the air as Old man Tianji began to engrave the rankings. Because of Zhan Chen's death, the rankings at the bottom of the rankings were all pushed forward. As for the top 3 rankings, there were no changes. Number 3 on the Heavenly Fate rankings, Si Qiong. Number 2 on the Heavenly Fate rankings, Chen Wang. Number 1 on the Heavenly Fate rankings, Qin Wentian. When the 3 words Qin Wentian were engraved on the Heavenly Fate rankings, the spectators drew in a deep breath. They knew that from now on, Qin Wentian's name would become a symbol of Granxia, just like Hua Taishu, a symbol of a generation. His name would shake Granxia. He would become the idol of countless youths, a goal they would strive to achieve. From today onwards, there would be countless people talking about him, worshipping him, recounting his deeds, and digging out everything about him. He swept away all the heavens chosen on the Heavenly Fate rankings. He stood together with the number 1 beauty of the Moon continent, Mo Qingcheng, holding hands, resembling an immortal couple. Their story would surely become a legend. Not only that, there would be many rumors circulating, such as Qin Wentian came to the Heavenly Fate rankings for the sake of Mo Qingcheng, disregarding everything, using an incomparably resolute will to obtain the first rank. Qin Wentian. At this moment, Old man Tianji called out. Qin Wentian shifted his gaze onto him, only to hear Old man Tianji slowly continuing. This time around, you've obtained the first rank on the Heavenly Fate rankings. This will be a precious experience for you on your path of cultivation. I hope that in the future, you will be able to persist in your heart and pursue even higher realms. Many thanks, Senior. Qin Wentian bowed slightly to Old man Tianji. This was indeed a precious experience for him. It was the same for those who had participated in the Heavenly Fate rankings and were still alive. This time around, the ranking battle of the Heavenly Fate rankings in Granxia has come to an end. Your glory in the ancient kingdom will forever be engraved in this place. Old man Tianji stared at the silhouettes of the crowd as he announced. His words signified the end of this year's Heavenly Fate rankings. This year's Heavenly Fate rankings was the most fascinating ranking battle they had ever seen. It would forever be engraved in their memories, never to be forgotten. Chapter 392. Qin Wentian slowly turned, staring at the familiar silhouettes of the crowd. He glanced at his teacher Mustang and his senior sister Luo Huan. He glanced at Ouyang Quangxing, Fan Lo and Chu Meng. He glanced at Mo Qingqing and Bai Qing as a faint smile appeared in his eyes. He had succeeded. Haha, how satisfying. A hearty voice rang out as Ouyang Quangxing's silhouette soared up into the skies, landing on the arena platform. First ranker of the Heavenly Fate rankings, I've truly lost all faith this time around. Chu Meng, Fan Lo, Emo Qingqing and the rest all stepped onto the arena platform. Now that the Heavenly Fate rankings had ended, those rules naturally no longer existed. Bailu Jing and Bailu Yi also stepped onto the arena platform. They stood at the side, staring at the celebratory crowd as Qin Wentian held Emo Qingqing's hand in his. Bailu Yi also smiled. Her innocent countenance was exceptionally beautiful when she smiled. She sincerely wished Qin Wentian well. Boss, this battle was so satisfying. Looking at the sullen expressions on their faces, it's so satisfying. A smile could be seen on Fan Li's chubby face. Qin Wentian stared at the faces of the crowd, feeling a sense of gratitude in his heart. He knew that although he was the top ranker of the Heavenly Fate rankings, he had also offended too many people in the Heavenly Fate rankings. Not only that, these people were still willing to come all the way here to celebrate with him, standing together with him on the platform. They weren't here to bask in his glory, but rather, to tell him that they were standing together with him. Qin Wentian's heart was truly moved. These people were his life and death brothers, his friends. Little junior brother, your luck with women isn't bad at all. Luo Huan giggled as she stared at the beauties beside Qin Wentian. Emo Qingqing, Bai Qing and even Yunmingyi were all here. Upon seeing the ambiguous look in Luo Huan's eyes, Qin Wentian couldn't help but roll his eyes. Luo Huan truly loved to joke around. Little rascal in her embrace transformed into a beam of white light, and instantly scuttled into Qin Wentian's embrace. Tilting its head, it stared at the purgatory vermilion bird in the air, as though it was demonstrating its dominance. The purgatory vermilion bird let out a low cry and swooped down, wrapping its wings around Qin Wentian. Because of its huge body, Qin Wentian's entire body was wrapped up by the purgatory vermilion bird's wings, causing the people around to laugh. Did the two demonic beasts also know how to fight for favor? The spectators below all stared at the youthful silhouette standing on the platform, filled with boundless vitality. They all felt a warmth in their hearts, feeling extremely touched. Of course, they also understood the situation Qin Wentian was facing, but the feelings of these young people had already transcended that sense of crisis. They trusted each other and treated each other as family. The first thing they did was to celebrate Qin Wentian. It had been a very long time since they had seen such a touching scene. That tyrannical young man was cold and violent, merciless and merciless. Who would have thought that he would have such a warm side to him? There were so many friends who were willing to stand together with him in the future, no matter how difficult it would be. In the direction of the Mystic Maiden Palace, Xian Xian dashed over, only to be held back by Xian Yan. What are you doing? I'm going to congratulate him. Xian Xian turned her head back. Do you know what the current situation is? Xian Yan glared at Xian Xian. This last was too rash. This time around, the person who obtained the top position in the Heavenly Fate rankings was Qin Wentian, not someone from the 7 transcendent powers. Such a situation had never happened before, not to mention that Qin Wentian had already offended so many people. Who knew what would happen next? I know, but he's Fan Li's brother. Isn't this what I should do? Xian Xian laughed. Xian Yan's hand loosened, and Xian Xian instantly slipped away, dashing towards the arena platform as well. This caused Xian Yan to be in a daze. She turned her gaze onto the platform, and found the honest-looking young man Chu Mang. Her heart was in a state of turmoil. Nonsense. A beautiful woman from the Mystic Maiden Palace couldn't help but be taken aback when she saw Xian Xian dashing up. After which she berated, Xian Xian, come back here. On the arena platform, Qin Wentian and the rest all heard this voice. Turning back, they saw Xian Xian standing at the edge of the platform. Her back was facing her master as she made a face at Qin Wentian. Congratulations on obtaining the top position in the Heavenly Fate rankings. You are much more powerful than a certain someone. That was an accident. Fatty Fan Li smiled. He was naturally the person Xian Xian was referring to. Yes, it was an accident. Xian Xian smiled mischievously. Qin Wentian glanced in the direction of the Mystic Maiden Palace as he spoke to Xian Xian. Xian Xian, you should return first. With regards to Xian Xian's kind intentions, he understood and accepted them. It was truly a wonderful thing for Fan Lu to have such a pure and innocent girlfriend. I know. Xian Xian glared at Qin Wentian, before reluctantly returning to the Mystic Maiden Palace. Qingcheng, you should come back as well. In the direction of the Pill Emperor Hall, Luo He stared at Mo Qingcheng as she spoke. Mo Qingcheng turned her gaze onto Luo He as she replied, Master, you promised me. What she was referring to was that Luo He had personally promised that as long as Qin Wentian defeated Zhang Qin, she wouldn't interfere in the matters between her and Qin Wentian. I've already promised you. Don't tell me I, your master, will go back on my words? Come here first, and follow me back later. If he wishes to woo my disciple, he can go to the Pill Emperor Hall himself. Luo He coldly stated, causing Mo Qingcheng to hesitate. She naturally wanted to be together with Qin Wentian, but her master Luo He treated her very well. Luo He's words didn't seem to have any intentions of stopping her. She only wanted her to return first. Qingcheng, you should go back first. Qin Wentian walked up, holding on to Mo Qingcheng's hands as he spoke in a low voice. If the Pill Emperor Hall wanted to stop him no matter what, there was nothing he could do. If he could ease the tension between them, he was willing to do so for the sake of Mo Qingcheng. After all, Zhang Qin couldn't represent the Pill Emperor Hall. The hatred between him and Zhang Qin was one of life and death. Hence, he had no hesitation in killing Zhang Qin. Mo Qingcheng inclined her head slightly, staring at Qin Wentian only to see Qin Wentian smiling at her as he spoke in a low voice. Go. His current strength was still insufficient to shake the Pill Emperor Hall. For the sake of Qingcheng, he was willing to take a step back. But if the Pill Emperor Hall went back on their words, he would definitely flatten the Pill Emperor Hall and bring Mo Qingcheng away. Let's hope that things wouldn't come to that. After all, he didn't have any deep grudges with Mo Qingcheng's master, Luo He. Mo Qingcheng tightly held onto Qin Wentian's hands as she nodded her head, reluctantly releasing them. After which, her silhouette flickered as she returned to the direction of the Pill Emperor Hall. Let's go. Luo He spoke. With a wave of her sleeves, she led those from the Pill Emperor Hall away. Mo Qingcheng turned her head back and stared at Qin Wentian. Her eyes filled with longing and reluctance. After this matter is concluded, I will return to the Moon Continent. Qin Wentian smiled as he spoke in a clear voice. Mo Qingcheng nodded her head lightly, her eyes filled with tears. They had only been together for a short period of time, and now they had to separate again. Qin Wentian felt extremely uncomfortable in his heart. He hated himself for not having enough strength. If he was the top ranker in the Heavenly Dipper rankings, what could these people from the Pill Emperor Hall do to him? How could they take away a woman from his side? But now, it was also good that Mo Qingcheng left. After all, he himself didn't know what would happen next. It's also good that she left. In this place, your hands and feet would be tied. Don't underestimate these transcendent powers too much. I'm afraid things won't go smoothly between you and her. Yin Mingyi walked to the side of Qin Wentian as she spoke in a low voice. I'm afraid the Pill Emperor Hall thinks that you won't be able to live past today. Qin Wentian's countenance stiffened. Yin Mingyi's words contained hints of maturity. Currently, other than giving Qin Wentian a sense of mystery, there was also a sense of calmness and maturity. It was as though nothing in the world would be able to affect her state of heart. The Heavenly Fate rankings have concluded. Everyone, please disperse. The ancient kingdom of Grand Xia shall be closed. Only those who manage to enter the Heavenly Fate rankings can remain here and pay their respects to the ancient kingdom. At this moment, a clear voice drifted down from the heavens, resounding throughout the entire space. It was unknown who the speaker was. This scene caused the hearts of Qin Wentian and the rest to tremble. Most probably, this was the voice of Xiqiong's faction. These people were eyeing the secret art within the vermilion bird formation like a tiger eyeing its prey. I participated in the ranking battle of the Heavenly Fate rankings, and obtained the ancient luck of Grand Xia. Now that I've succeeded, I shall no longer pay any attention to the ancient kingdom. A person calmly spoke. The person who spoke was none other than Qinzheng. He could also sense that these people had ill intentions. If they stayed behind, wouldn't they be slaughtered by others? This is the tradition of Grand Xia. How can we abandon it? The voice in the air continued, containing traces of coldness and tyranny. I believe we should have the freedom to do so. Qin Zheng faintly spoke. Obtaining the ancient luck of Grand Xia, yet refusing to pay respects to our ancient kingdom. What are your intentions? The ice-cold voice contained a powerful might within. That person from the Chun clan spoke. This is the tradition of the ancient kingdom, we cannot abandon it. The countenances of Qin Wentian and the rest froze. Before this, these people wanted to exchange their secret arts, but they didn't agree. Now they wanted to force them to stay behind. This is the tradition of Grand Xia. That person from the Hua clan spoke. We cannot abandon it. That person from the Wang clan stated. All of them harboring unfathomable intentions. They, the 7 great clans of Grand Xia, most probably had a connection with the power that Si Qiong was from. In fact, Qin Wentian guessed that the destruction of Grand Xia back then had something to do with them. After all, the true records of that period of history had already been erased. If you all dare to disrespect the ancient kingdom, spit out the ancient luck you obtained and cripple it. The ice-cold voice drifted down from the heavens. It wouldn't stop until it achieved its goal. Are you all really from the ancient kingdom of Grand Xia? Why are you hiding your heads, but showing your tails? Qin Wentian inclined his head, his eyes gleaming with sharpness. As the sound of his voice faded, a group of silhouettes soared up into the skies from the depths of the royal palace, instantly descending upon this space. This group of people were all extraordinary. Just by casually standing in the air, they gave off a terrifying feeling. Their auras weren't any weaker compared to those from the various transcendent powers. Only to see that their gazes were sharp as they stared at the arena platform. Which power do you belong to? The person in the lead was a middle-aged man clad in golden robes, exuding an extraordinary aura. He stared at Qin Wentian as he coldly asked, I don't belong to any transcendent power. Qin Wentian replied, Fine, since you obtained the ancient luck of Grand Xia, it can also be considered fate. I shall bestow you a chance. Join us and we will definitely help you grow. How about it? The golden-robed middle-aged man had a heart filled with love for talent. He stared at the crowd as he continued. Those who obtained ancient luck are all fated. I shall bestow you all with good fortune. Although this person sent out an invitation out of love for talent, his words were filled with arrogance. Bestowing good fortune to everyone caused a strange feeling to appear in the hearts of the crowd. This wasn't like what the rumors said, that the ancient kingdom of Grand Xia was only left with a weak and feeble branch. These people in front of them had strength comparable to the strongest transcendent powers. Chapter 393. Old Man Tianji and the other transcendent powers didn't interfere. It was as though this matter had nothing to do with them. This caused the spectators to silently speculate. What were the identities of these people exactly? The destruction of the ancient kingdom of Grand Xia. What kind of unknown story was hidden within? Most probably, what they knew were only half-truths. It was rumored that a few thousand years ago, the ancient kingdom of Grand Xia was so powerful that even the combined forces of the 36 transcendent powers couldn't be compared to the ancient kingdom of Grand Xia. After that, a terrifying war occurred, causing the heavens to crumble and the earth to split apart. Only after that did the 9 transcendent powers establish a foothold in the 9 continents. There was no way to verify any of this. The eyes of Qin Wentian and the rest flickered. These people should have a close relationship with the various transcendent powers. Chun Wang and the rest had already agreed to the exchange, and when Luo He brought Mo Qingqing away, they also didn't obstruct her. Mo Qingqing was also one of those who had obtained ancient luck. Qin Wentian, Qin Zheng, Mu Feng, and Yun Mingyi. The 4 of them had obtained ancient luck, and most probably had secret arts that they knew. Not only that, they didn't trade with the other party. The 4 of them were naturally the targets of these people. At this moment, Qin Zheng and Mu Feng's eyes were filled with coldness. Although the other party had sent out an invitation, they weren't willing to accept it. With their talent and determination, it wasn't difficult for them to join a transcendent power. However, they had to follow their hearts before they could cultivate in peace. Naturally, the transcendent powers they were in love with must belong to And now, although the other party had sent them an invitation, they were too domineering. They naturally didn't like it. Not only that, even if they joined them, wouldn't they be trampled upon by others? Who knew what would happen in the future? These people had the ability to search souls. What if they wanted to search their memories? Such humiliation. They had no way to endure it. Hence, they naturally weren't willing. However, the origins of these people seemed to be extremely terrifying. Even old man Tianji, who was in charge of the heavenly fate rankings, fell silent. Qin Wentian and Yun Mingyi also had the same thoughts. Such an invitation, how could they accept it? The purgatory vermilion bird hovered in the air above Qin Wentian's head, letting out an enraged screech at the silhouettes in the air. It was as though the purgatory vermilion bird could sense everything happening here, and knew that these people had ill intentions. Evil creature. The golden-robed man waved his hand, and a resplendent beam of light shot out. The purgatory vermilion bird's silhouette flickered, but with a piercing sound, the purgatory vermilion bird let out a miserable shriek as a certain part of its body was pierced through, causing fresh blood to flow out. It flapped its wings with all its might, and its eyes revealed a fierce light, as if it was unyielding. A cold light flashed in Qin Wentian's eyes as he floated into the air. Looking at the purgatory vermilion bird's bleeding wings, he stretched out his hand and gently stroked it. The purgatory vermilion bird let out a low cry and gently embraced Qin Wentian's body with its wings. There was a look of reluctance in its eyes, as if it wanted to say goodbye. This gaze caused Qin Wentian's heart to tremble. Inclining his head, his eyes flashed with anger. Sir, you are a senior, and since you claim to be someone from the ancient kingdom of Grand Xia, why do you treat this vermilion bird in such a manner? We are the lords of the ancient kingdom of Grand Xia. Just a mere spirit formed from ancient luck. How dare you be so impudent? How can we not punish you? The golden-robed man's voice was filled with arrogance, as though he was warning Qin Wentian and the others. Now that they were in control of everything, if they wanted to retaliate, they would have to be prepared to suffer the same fate as the purgatory vermilion bird. Qin Wentian naturally understood the meaning behind the words. His gaze grew even colder. Yet the purgatory vermilion bird gently caressed him with its wings as it let out a low cry. Its eyes were filled with longing as it stared at Qin Wentian, filled with reluctance. It was a spirit body, and was born because of Qin Wentian. And now, it would die because of Qin Wentian. It had no regrets. This was its destiny. It's offering a sacrifice, summoning the spirit of the vermilion bird formation. Yun Mingyi softly spoke, her voice directly entering Qin Wentian's eardrums. The others couldn't hear it. Stop! Qin Wentian turned his gaze onto the purgatory vermilion bird. Momentarily, the purgatory vermilion bird also turned its gaze onto him, its eyes filled with reluctance yet determination. I won't allow you to do this. Qin Wentian's heart was resolute. The purgatory vermilion bird seemed to be able to sense it. It let out a low cry of helplessness as it arched its body towards Qin Wentian, as though it was filled with an intense longing for Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian turned his gaze onto Yun Mingyi. Yun Mingyi seemed to have understood Qin Wentian's intentions. She transmitted her voiceover. You can summon the divine steel. The divine steel also contains the power of an ancient will, and can be used to attack. However, I have no idea how much power the ancient will has left. And if you summon the divine steel, you would definitely offend many of the transcendent powers. There were still 5 pieces of the divine steel that were controlled by the 5 transcendent powers. If Qin Wentian summoned it in front of everyone, how could he not offend them? Not only that, once the complete divine steel appeared, it wouldn't just be an offense. How could those transcendent powers not fight over it? Qin Wentian slowly turned his gaze onto the purgatory vermilion bird, as a sharp glint of light flashed in his eyes. How could he watch on as his comrade sacrificed himself? The purgatory vermilion bird could sense the thoughts in Qin Wentian's heart. Do you know that summoning the spirit of the vermilion bird formation and activating the grand reactivation formation is extremely beneficial to you? Yun Mingyi spoke again, but Qin Wentian's heart didn't waver. To me, you are not a spirit but a life form. You are my comrade. Qin Wentian stared at the purgatory vermilion bird as he gently stroked its wings. I won't allow you to sacrifice yourself. His gaze was incomparably resolute. Inclining his head, he stared at the golden-robed middle-aged man as he stated, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Qin Wentian's voice rang out, causing the countenances of the crowd to freeze. This Qin Wentian was truly audacious. Senior, are you really someone from the ancient kingdom? How can I prove it? Qin Wentian faintly asked. Do I need to prove it? The golden-robed middle-aged man coldly replied. What if I can prove it? Qin Wentian stared at the golden-robed middle-aged man, causing his gaze to turn sharp as a wave of pressure bore down on him. It was as though he was gradually losing his patience. How can you prove it? Abruptly, a voice drifted over. Qin Wentian discovered that the owner of this voice was none other than Old Man Tianji. The golden-robed middle-aged man turned his gaze onto Old Man Tianji, his eyes gleaming with sharpness. Old Man Tianji was also looking at the golden-robed middle-aged man. What do you think? That golden-robed middle-aged man fell silent for a moment before he turned to Qin Wentian and coldly laughed. I'll give you a chance to prove yourself. This place was the ancient kingdom of Grand Xia. It wasn't his territory. Old Man Tianji's strength was unfathomable. He would give him face. Qin Wentian stared at Old Man Tianji with gratitude in his eyes. He didn't expect that Old Man Tianji would actually speak out to help him. This was truly unexpected. Turning his gaze back to the skies, Qin Wentian's countenance was filled with determination. With an intention of his will, 4 heavenly steels appeared before him. The 3 heavenly steels from the ancient steel path, as well as the Yellow Springs monument. All 4 of them were part of the divine steel. The 4 heavenly steels floated in the air, causing the expressions of the crowd to freeze. This is... The golden-robed middle-aged man froze as he stared in bewilderment at the 4 heavenly steels. The divine steel. Old Man Tianji's eyes gleamed with sharpness as he stared at Qin Wentian. This young man had actually obtained 4 divine steels, only to see Qin Wentian's lips trembling as he chanted an incantation. This incantation transformed into a formless energy that was infused into the heavenly steels. Instantly, the 4 heavenly steels began to hum unceasingly as they trembled violently, emitting terrifying whistling sounds. An intense ancient will gushed forth from the heavenly steels. Busy. A resplendent light shot up into the skies, as the ancient will swept past the heavens and earth, penetrating through the void. What a powerful ancient will! The hearts of the crowd trembled. And at this moment, in the Venerate Heavens sect of Ginku, a heavenly steel suddenly trembled violently, emitting an intense humming sound as though the ancient will had awakened, summoning it. Boom! A deafening sound echoed out as the heavenly steel soared up into the skies, directly breaking out of the great hall. With a speed so fast that the naked eye couldn't detect it, it sped towards a certain direction. What's that? Those from the Venerate Heavens sect all inclined their heads, staring at a beam of light in the skies. They couldn't even see what it was, yet it had already flown away. It was too fast, so fast that it caused their hearts to tremble. Similar scenes occurred in the great Solar Chen clan and Shi clan. Among them, a heavenly steel soared through the skies, transforming into a beam of light. Not only that, in the Moon continent, the Pill Emperor Hall and the Hua clan, a heavenly steel soared through the skies as well. They only saw a beam of light shooting up into the skies. In the ancient kingdom of Grand Xia, countless people stared at the heavenly steel floating above Qin Wentian. The eyes of the golden-robed middle-aged man gleamed with a terrifying light. He didn't stop Qin Wentian. This was the awakening of the ancient will of the divine steel. Truly a gift bestowed by the heavens. The eyes of the golden-robed middle-aged man gleamed with sharpness. If the divine steel appeared again, he would take it away with him. Busy. 3 beams of light arrived almost instantaneously, directly fusing together with the 4 heavenly steels. A sharp whistling sound rang out in the air, terrifying to the extreme, as the ancient will of the heavens and earth permeated the air. That's the heavenly steel from the Venerate Heavens sect. They're fusing together. Old Man Tianji exclaimed in shock. Indeed, they were fusing together. Was this really the will of the heavens? Not too long after, another 2 beams of light flew over, instantly landing on the fused heavenly steel. An incomparably dazzling light radiated forth, causing the entire arena platform to tremble. How fast! Although those from the transcendent powers knew what was going to happen, they were all stunned by the speed at which the heavenly steels arrived. The fate of the constellations of Grand Xia is indeed fusing together. The divine steel is fusing together first. In the future, this young man will definitely influence the entire Grand Xia. The last shred of doubt in old man Tianji's heart vanished without a trace. Without a doubt, Qin Wentian was that demonic star. He was the one who caused the 9 heavenly steel fragments to fuse together and reform. Back then, when the ancient kingdom of Grand Xia was destroyed, the divine steel was split into 9 pieces. Today it was fusing together. Wasn't this a kind of omen, a sign of the will of the heavens? Qin Wentian only felt a terrifying ancient will emanating from the divine steel floating in the air, exuding an immense pressure that made it hard for them to breathe. The 9 shattered pieces of the divine steel glowed with a bright light as they gradually merged back together. The divine steel had reappeared in Grand Xia. You're tuning in to the Limei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.